A bright flash appeared in the sky. The protagonist immediately turned around with shock on his face. He thought that there were not many things to enjoy in this world. The sudden appearance of a truck cut short the life of 25-year-old Yusuke Yahagi, not the ending one would have wanted to choose. The place of his reincarnation is a unique profession. And when he heard these words, he did not understand what it meant. The main character found himself in a room with other people. A man in glasses turned to one of those present and said that he was a monk, after which he suggested enjoying reincarnation. The guy with blonde hair sitting next to him dreamily said the word monk. Then the man with glasses turned to the other and said that he was next. Yusuke was wondering if this could be a reincarnation into another world. The guy next to him was talking about being hit by a huge truck that weighed 10 tons. He was wondering why this guy was bragging about such nonsense. The man in glasses turned to one of the boys and said that he was a hero, a budding magician. Yusuke thought that there seemed to be no cause and effect relationship between the size of the truck and the quality of the unique work. After this, the man turned to the main character and said that his destiny would be to be a pastry chef in a family store. Yusuke asked the man what he was even talking about, to which the latter stood up, waved his hand to everyone and wished them to enjoy their new life. The main character, having analyzed everything he heard, thought that it seemed that he had no freedom of choice of profession after reincarnation. Yusuke went outside. He looked around and thought that this did not look like modern Japan. Then he saw his reflection in a puddle on the ground and thought that his face was the same, his clothes were the same. Then he saw a group of people passing nearby. Looking closely at them, he thought that they were adventurers, which meant that this was definitely another world. The main character decided to follow them. One of the guys said that he even understood what they were talking about. The girl suggested organizing a witch hunt. Yusuke thought that everyone was cursing him and laughed. Then all together they reached a certain place. It was the entrance to the dungeon. The main character also realized that he could read calmly in this world. Standing near the entrance, Yusuke looked around the area. There were many different benches. He thought that it looked more like a train station with a bunch of stalls. Then he saw some unknown food being fried in oil. He thought that he had not eaten anything for a long time, but now he was penniless. The seller told him that if he didn't have enough money, he should earn it. Yusuke thought about how he could earn money because he couldn't just enter the dungeon unarmed. Besides, he was just a pastry chef. An idea came to the main character's head. He again remembered that he was a coder and decisively hit his palm with his fist. Then Yusuke remembered the man's words that he should just say the word opening and the store would open. The protagonist was confused by this advice, but he decided to try. Having found the perfect corner, he looked around. After that he said this word. A stick appeared in his hands, on both ends of which were baskets with products. He thought that he had things, even his clothes had changed. It seemed to him that the coders looked different. However, these sweets are like from his childhood. True, they have different inscriptions, but he would recognize the wrapper out of 1,000. The main character thought that he had zero experience in sales. But he looked combative. He had to make a decision for the sake of survival. Yusuke immediately started offering candies to people passing by. It goes without saying that no one reacted. Then he started talking about how his candies were delicious and cheap, but again no one reacted. Suddenly he tried to use the word dagashi. Perhaps it would definitely attract people. But a passing man with a mohawk on his head looked at him angrily, which scared the guy. Yusuke cried and thought about how one could survive by selling cheap sweets. With his last breath, he began asking if anyone wanted cheap sweets. Here he saw how the girl began to move shyly towards him. The main character smiled at her and asked if she by any chance liked dagashi, to which she joyfully froze in place. The girl came closer, looked at his goods in the baskets, and then with a smile on her face said that it was cute. The stranger started pointing her finger at various items and asking what they were. So, she pointed at the gum. Yusuke explained that it cost 10 yen, then it dawned on him that this was probably a different currency. The system window gave him the information that 10 packs of gum restore 1 MP of magic power every 10 seconds while the aroma is active. Strawberry flavored, cost 10 lira. It dawned on him that he was seeing the composition of the products. The main character held a pack of chewing gum in his hands. With a smile on his face, he said that it only cost 10 lira, to which the girl asked him what chewing gum was. It dawned on him that no one in this world knew about it. Yusuke explained out loud that this is a snack that can be chewed for a long time. It does not need to be washed down, moreover. While the aroma is active, it will restore 6 MP of magical power every minute. To which the girl with a smile on her face said that it was cool. He thought that she was not too inspired. Were there really better recovery options in this world? The girl said that it looked nice, she wanted to take it. She said that she would buy it and give it to Myra as a gift. 20 lira with an embarrassed look, he thanked her. He thought to himself that the 10 lira copper coins were his first income. Said that it was time for her to go, otherwise she would be late. Yusuke thought that he would continue in the same spirit in order to live in abundance. At noon it became lifeless there. The main character thought that his stomach didn't like it. He wouldn't even eat for 20 lira. In the end, only that girl bought something from him. He looked at his product, rice crackers with curry. They give warmth and help to warm up, cost 20 lira. Yusuke thought that what kind of businessman is he if he eats his own products? But his stomach was growling. He had to, or rather, he urgently needed to eat. It was necessary. So he picked up a cracker and bit into it. The main character chewed a cracker and thought that they were the same as in his childhood. And they really warmed him up. Then he looked at the other can. It was squid kebab, which temporarily heightens the senses to identify the enemy. He thought it looked good. It cost 30 lira. He ate one and thought it was nostalgic. Yusuke thought that it was not only tasty but also had some properties. It was not sold only because there was no advertising. Well, he had no experience in sales, which also played a role. Suddenly, the main character began to hear the voices of those around him better. He said that his senses had become more acute, and this is the effect of squid shashlik. He thought that even the dryness in his mouth was more noticeable. Curry crackers, squid kebabs. It was a good thing he had found a fountain quickly, so he drank some water right away. Then something caught his eye. Looking to the side, he saw a small building. It was somewhat shabby, and the main character concluded that it was probably a hotel. It was called the Bedicuro Safe House. That didn't sound safe at all. Then he looked at the price list and thought that it was still expensive for him, but judging by the dilapidated building, it should be the cheapest. Yusuke thought that today he would spend the night under the stars. He still only had 20 lira. He saw that the sun was setting, so he decided to return to the dungeon. The main character thought about whether everything was okay with the girl who bought the gum from him. The latter was in the dungeon with her friend. She was fighting an elite slime. Her friend said that it was harder to fight him than a normal one, so she had to be more careful. To which she said that she knew everything. Physical attacks were useless. Magic had to be added. The girl pointed her hand towards the enemy, after which she used the powerful triple shot skill. On the third count, when she needed to strike, she didn't have enough strength. She realized that the mister was over. They both ran away from the monster. Her friend started screaming that this was the reason. She asked her to be careful. A friend said that it was necessary to use a potion, to which the girl replied that it would be a shame to use it against slugs. Then she remembered the main character and the goods that she bought from him. The girl took out a pack of gum and offered it to her friend. She also took and ate one piece. She said that it was really tasty. She said that she had regained her strength and could now act. Her friend asked if this was true, to which the girl replied that everything would be fine and that they needed to move forward. The girl's face took on a healthy blush, and it was clear that she had become much more energetic. She used her powerful triple shot skill again, after which she hit the slime. In the evening, at the market near the dungeon, the main character was watching the people around him. Different people were walking around there. He saw a group of adventurers. He thought to himself that they were already returning. Then someone called out to him. It turned out to be the same girl who bought the gum from him. She was shouting at her friend to move faster, to which the latter asked where she was going in such a hurry. Yusuke recognized her. He asked her if she liked the gum, to which she responded in the affirmative and said that it helped her a lot. Her strength really was restored. She just wanted to use her cool triple attack. The girl explained that when the taste disappeared, the restoration also stopped. This gum quickly loses its taste. At that moment, her friend also greeted him. The girl said that her name was Myra. His customer showed him the paper on her palms and said that she had found this scrap inside. It said that another one was coming as a gift. Yusuke thought that it looked like a small lottery. The main character said that he congratulated her, after which he handed her another pack of gum. The girl was surprised by his words. She asked if it was true, to which he answered positively. She said that she didn't like it. Yusuke also told her that there were still permanent lottery tickets. The girl saw that it only cost 10 lira. It was a chocolate coin that restores a little physical strength. The main character explained that this coin was chocolate. The girl was surprised by his words and said that only rich people could afford it. She asked if she could win the lottery. The girl asked if she could still get a chocolate bar, to which the main character answered negatively and said that she would get glasses. She asked him what kind of glasses they were. Yusuke explained that they could be spent in the store for the same amount as the goods cost. A fire appeared in the girl's eyes. She handed him a 10 lira coin and asked him to sell it to her. Then the girl leaned towards this lottery. Myra asked her what she was doing, to which the girl explained what she was choosing. The main character said that it was a stupid waste of money. Suddenly she made her choice. She resolutely took out one thing and said that she had chosen it. However, she was unlucky. Myra stroked her head and said that she was sorry. The girl was very upset. Then her friend approached the main character and asked him to give her another ticket, To which the guy responded with a smile, yes, after which she received a coupon for 10 lira. Yusuke explained that Myra could exchange it for any item for 10 lira, to which the girl asked whether this was good or bad. The main character's customer said that the world loves Myra, but it's all because of her great dignity. Her friend said that she is ashamed of what she says. Then Maple turned to the main character and said that she would buy 3 lottery tickets, to which Yusuke said that it would cost 30 lira. However, the girl again failed. Suddenly, a group of adventurers approached them and asked what was going on, why the girl was screaming. To which the latter said that they should not come near, these were her tickets. The main character tried to intervene in the conversation, but Merle at that very moment asked for 3 more tickets. Then one of the adventurers asked if he was really selling cheap candies. His companion said that it was very nice. The evening came when the working day was over. The main character counted the profit and thought that Merle's screams had become excellent advertising. He thought that advertising was important after all, because thanks to it he wouldn't have to sleep in the open air. At this time, a joyful Merle held a coupon for 30 lire in her hands. It was obvious to the naked eye how happy the girl was. The protagonist congratulated her and thought that she had spent much more than she had received. At that moment, someone touched Merle on the shoulder. It turned out to be her friend Myra. She suggested that she come here tomorrow, to which the girl asked in surprise if she was serious. Then her friend blushed and told her not to get anything out of her head. Merle and Myra smiled sweetly and said that they would return to him tomorrow, to which the main character replied with a smile that he would wait for them. He thought to himself that his store would have its first regular customers. Merle asked him what the name of his shop was. This question made him think. He said that it was Yahagi's pastry shop. The girl immediately asked him again about the name, to which the main character explained that his name was Yusuke Yahagi. She asked him if it was true, after which she added that it was a very bizarre name and title. Myra blushed at that moment. She called the main character sir. Merle looked at the girl's figure, after which she thought that Yusuke was just her type, so strange and handsome. Evening came, it was getting on for the night, it was already very dark around. The main character was thinking that the sun had already set, so he needed to close up. Suddenly he noticed. Merle asked one of the adventurers what was interesting, to which he replied that they had found a witch a long time ago. Myra explained that this witch had put a curse on the king. The girl also explained that whoever finds her will receive a reward of 100 million lira. The main character was surprised by this amount. Myra said that many adventurers were looking for the witch, but no one managed to catch her. To which Yusuke said that he was just a pastry chef, it was none of his business. However, it was clear that this upset him a little. Merle said that one day she will receive this award. Myra said that this story has nothing to do with them fighting slime. The main character agreed with her and said that a stable income is best. The main character thought that they had nothing in common, that's what he thought then, but in life different things happen, whether it's a profession or people around. At this time, a group of people in armor were moving in search of the witch. One of the men asked if he had found it, to which the second replied that it was somewhere here. An unknown girl was watching them. A new day has come. In the morning, different people and sellers began to appear in front of the entrance to the dungeon, opening their shops. The main character was no exception to this. He again used his opening skill. He hadn't even opened his shop when the girls ran up to him. Merle said she needed 3 packs of gum. Myra said she would take the biggest candy. Yusuke was glad that they were buying his goods. Then a man approached the stall who was wearing a mask and fully equipped. The protagonist thought that the towel was bought at the stall early in the morning for 500 lira, and there were 420 lira in stock. His name is Yusuke. After reincarnation, he opened his own shop. A lot happened, but he was able to live until the second day in the new world. These girls Myra and Merle are his regular clients whom he quickly found. Myra asked him if he was a magician, to which he replied that opening is the only skill he can use. The girl said that this is a rare power called spatial magic. At this time, Merle said that she wants to buy goods for 10 lira, after which she asked to give them back faster. They told him that he looked sleepy, to which he replied that he had simply not slept well the night before. And indeed, his face was pale and there were bruises under his eyes. After that, the girls said goodbye to him and said that they would come in the evening. He asked them to come back alive. Merle said that this was a very scary wish. Myra said that they would return. A guy came up to him and asked if he had any gum and rice crackers with curry, as the guys wanted to take some. Yusuke greeted him and thought that thanks to the girls he would get even more regular customers. However, he won't be able to make money quickly on Dagashi. His morning earnings amounted to 360 lira. With this money, he still managed to sleep only in that cheap guest house. He had 780 lira left in stock. He remembered yesterday evening. The protagonist reached Batakuro's safe house again. He was scared, thinking about how he found it during the day. In the dark, the place was more creepy. He wondered if he would leave alive. When he went inside, he met a woman. She asked if he really wanted to stay the night. He said yes and explained that he needed one night. She said that it cost 850 lira, breakfast included. The hostess looked like a bore. The woman told him to be quiet at night or she would throw him out. He felt uncomfortable, but he agreed. Then she led him down the corridor to a door. Opening it, she said that this was his room. It was small, there was only a single bed, a nightstand with a lamp and a window. The main hero thought that it was less than he expected, but cozy. The woman said that the magic crystal in the lamp would last for 2 hours. No need to warn about leaving, after which she added that she left. Yusuke immediately lay down under the blanket, getting ready for sleep. He thought that he would just pack his things and leave. After a while, he felt a chill. The protagonist was thinking about the fact that he felt a draft. It was early spring in Japan. It seemed that the weather here was about the same. He wanted to believe that it was better than sleeping in nature. Morning came, Yusuke got up and realized that he had not slept enough. He decided that he needed to save money to move to a better place. He emerged from his memories when evening came. Looking around, he noticed that the adventurers were already returning. Merle and Myra also came up. They were very tired. The protagonist asked them what had happened, to which Myra replied that Merle had been trapped in a dungeon and that she had been cursed with dizziness. Merle explained that she had accidentally touched a gargoyle statue. Not fatally, of course, but her head was heavy. Yusuke immediately thought about her words. He asked them if they had a cup and water with them. Myra asked why he asked this question and then asked if he had an antidote. The protagonist explained that this was not entirely true. He had juice. It was grape powder juice which had a dispersing effect. It cost 30 lire and it had to be dissolved in 120 ml of water. After he diluted it in water, he handed the glass to Merle and told her to drink it. The girl took a few sips. A few moments later, Merle seemed to come to life. She stood up, her face had a healthy color. She said that it was delicious and then asked if there was more. Myra also smiled at him and said that it was so effective. She asked if all 5 flavors had the same effect, to which he replied that the effect was different. Then he told them to watch. So, orange gives detoxification, strawberry reduces the consumption of magical energy, melon increases the gain of experience by 1.2 times for 40 minutes, pineapple increases the gain of profit by 2 times for 15 minutes. Merle wanted to say something, but the main character said that it was getting hot, after which he gave her some object and told her to eat it. After a few seconds, she felt better. Myra asked what it was, to which the guy replied that it was a cola with a calming effect. It cost 40 lira. Myra suggested that Merle should always take him with her and life would be easier next to him, to which Yusuke added that she would owe him 40 lira. The girl simply agreed with him. In one day he earned 3,000 lira. Today the main character will have to stay in that cheap house again. The woman asked him if he wanted to stay for the night, to which he said that he needed one room. She said that the room was the same as yesterday. Here Yusuke's eyes fell on some object not far from him. It turned out that there was some big stain on the table. He asked if it was dirt, to which the woman replied that there had been a fight here, and she could very well put the man in his place. The protagonist thought to himself that he needed to quickly find a better place to stay for the night. The next morning, he got up early to find a place closer to the entrance of the dungeon. Yusuke kept thinking about how he needed to earn money quickly for a better place to stay. The protagonist used his discovery skill again. When his stall appeared, he thought that the pineapple juice that had been sold out had appeared again. Then he looked around and realized that those goods had appeared too. He concluded that his products were replenishing themselves. He also saw a lucky lottery among his goods. It contained a rocket card that only worked once. If you throw it at a monster, the package will explode. The more packages, the stronger the effect. One piece costs 50 lira. The main character was surprised by these words about the magic of explosion. He thought that it was a dangerous thing. The rackets in Japan simply slammed, making a loud sound. He was wondering if it would be suitable for a pastry shop when the girls approached the stand. Merle said that there was also pineapple juice. She wanted more. Then she saw the card and asked what it was. Yusuke explained that it was a rocket. The protagonist asked Myra if explosive magic was dangerous, to which the girl replied that it depended on the caster, but as offensive magic it was quite effective. By the way, she couldn't use it. Then Yusuke asked Merle why she didn't try it, to which the girl replied that she only wanted juice. Myra said that she would try it. The main character took out 3 small rockets. He handed them to Myra and said that he thought she would like them. She laughed sweetly. Yusuke immediately warned her to be careful when using them. She told him not to worry as she often used magic items. Merle called out to him that they would meet soon. After some time, the girls returned. Merle happily flew straight to the main character. He asked what was going on, to which she replied that the pineapple juice was cool. Myra reported that they had earned more than usual. Merle also added that the missiles were just a plague. They fought with a poisonous tooth. The monster was blown away with one hit, although he is not weak. She said that she now wanted to try it too. He said that anyone could use the missiles. It was not as powerful as the magic used by experienced adventure spellcasters. It only cost 50 lira. Then Merle decided to try her luck in the lottery. She wanted to get a rocket, but she was unlucky again. She said that she would do this until she won. The main character immediately told her to drink cola. That same evening, Yusuke returned to the same hotel. The woman asked if it was really him again. The guy asked for another night. He thought that he was in a cheap house again. Sales had increased, but he had to save. The woman said that if he took 5 nights at once, he could get a discount. To which the main character replied that he could not. To himself, he thought that she seemed to have become kinder. She explained that there was a rather dangerous person in the room next to him today, so he needed to be careful. Yusuke asked if it was really a bandit, to which the woman explained that it was not quite so. She said that this man is called the Grim Reaper. There are rumors that he killed many people. The main character said that it is very scary. The guy asked why the guards wouldn't catch him, to which the woman asked that he didn't know. Then she asked him to wait because it was a long story. She had to make tea. Yusuke realized that she was bored here. The main character thought about making sweets for tea. He opened his shop and got out chocolate dorayaki. There are 2 pieces in the package. The second one can be shared with a friend. This way you can become even closer. Yusuke thought about the moment with increasing intimacy. He wondered if he should be closer to this woman. Judging by his experience, the effect of dagashi is commensurate with the price, so it won't work with too much. When the woman returned, he asked her if she liked sweets, then threw her one. She said it was delicious, and then she asked if he really sold them. The woman asked him how much he was selling them for. Yusuke said 30 lira. She said it was cheap and then bought 10 from him. He smiled and thought that somehow it had turned into sales. When he took the tea she brought, he thought that it tasted like something between hojicha and black tea. He asked her why the authorities didn't work against criminals. She answered that there was a story. All the best generals and soldiers are sent to the border. What is left now is only the pitiful remains of warriors. Yusuke thought to himself that he should have leaned less on sweets, and it is not far to lovers. The woman asked him if he knew that the country was currently at war. The protagonist smiled innocently and thought that he knew nothing. She also explained to him that on top of everything there was a royal curse. He asked if it was really a witch's curse, to which she answered positively. The king once had a bride. She was a famous witch named Michelle, but they broke off their engagement. He asked why this had happened, to which she explained that the king had fallen in love with the current queen. The queen was a bewitching beauty, so the king probably couldn't resist her charm. He was a typical man. Then the witch got angry and put a curse on her. Since the king left state affairs, the security situation in this city has only worsened. The guards will not take on affairs based on rumors alone. The protagonist was already talking about breaking off the engagement at this point. Yusuke suggested that the witch Michelle must be very cute. These words greatly embarrassed the woman. She said that it was better not to say such things. Criminals are not caught, but if you go against the royal family, you will be sent to prison. Suddenly, the main character seemed to hear something from the side of the stairs. He turned to her. He told the woman that he seemed to have heard a noise, after which he asked if they were really being followed. To which she asked him if he had even listened to her before. The woman said that she didn't care who her guests were, but he should be careful with that guy. He really could be dangerous. Yusuke said that he understood everything. When the main character came to his room, he lay down on the bed, covered himself with a blanket, and realized that now he would not be able to sleep. He had the feeling that he was being watched. He wondered if someone would actually think he was bad. There was a grim reaper behind that thin wall. Would he come for him if he fell asleep? But the most important thing is that the main character really wanted to go to the toilet. And this is one of the main reasons why he could not sleep. The toilet is in the yard, the stairs opposite the reaper's room. He wondered if he would die from the desire to go to the toilet. Then he decided that instead of being afraid of death, he would rather die with honor. So he decided to go to the toilet. When he went out into the corridor, he saw that the door to the reaper's room was open. He came closer and thought that curiosity would destroy him. He knew it, but he couldn't control it. When he closed the door to the room, he saw that there was women's underwear on the bed. This surprised him. The size of the bra was very large. He thought that maybe the reaper was just a lingerie designer or had a weird hobby. Either way, he was still dangerous. The main character found a solution. He said that he did not see anything. After that, he already reached the toilet, and then he became happy. After he relieved himself, he felt hungry. He used his opening skill and took out a chocolate dorayaki. Just as he was about to take a bite, he was asked if it was his product. Yusuke put his goods on the ground. He said that he was a street vendor, and this was his product. But he didn't have time to finish his sentence when his interlocutor asked if these were really sweets. The main character turned around and saw the Reaper. He started to get a little nervous, but decided to ask him if he would like some sweets, to which he chuckled. Yusuke thought to himself that he was really sharing candy with the god of death. When the Grim Reaper tasted the sweetness given to him, he said that it was delicious. The protagonist realized that he had just heard a female voice. Then the Reaper corrected himself and said that it was delicious. He also asked if these were all sweets. Then he chose the goods and bought them. Yusuke asked him if he really liked sweets, to which the god of death replied that he didn't really like them while he was holding a large amount of sweets in his hands. Chocolate dorayaki 10 lira, a large chocolate candy 10 lira. In total, the Grim Reaper made purchases in his store for 1,000 lyre. The man asked him if he really lived in this hotel, to which the main character replied that sometimes this happens. Then the Grim Reaper turned around and said goodbye to him. Yusuke thought that he survived. Now it was time for him to return to the room. At the same time, the Grim Reaper in his room took off all his clothes and armor. It turned out to be a girl with long hair. She thought that she was so glad that she had gathered up the courage to talk to him, she even bought sweets. While the girl was thinking about this situation, she began to giggle. At this time, the main character, lying on the bed, thought that he would definitely survive. A new day has come. Yusuke came to his favorite place. He used his opening skill, however his shop has changed. He realized that it changes with the degree of increase in sales. The main character said that everything is clear to him, now he can display goods using boxes. Even the list of goods has become larger. Then the girls ran up to him. Merle asked if he had any new products. Myra wished him good morning. Yusuke said that he had monster chips, after which he offered them to try. They agreed. And then the protagonist pulled out a stone golem card. It meant a moving statue 2.5 meters high. Among its skills were suppression and stone wall. Myra was surprised that the card had an rank. It can be used both in attack and defense. Yusuke said that it was very good, after which he asked Merle about what she got. The latter was very upset. She looked at her card and said that she got slime. The main character said that she was unlucky again. Yusuke asked Myra if she wanted to earn some extra money, to which she sweetly asked what needed to be done. The protagonist showed her an object and said that it needed to be frozen. It was an apricot stick, which was a sliced apricot frozen in syrup, eating which gives courage. Myra told him that she didn't have ice magic. She apologized for that, to which he replied that everything was fine. He thought to himself that the frozen sticks were like sherbet, they were tastier. Then the Grim Reaper approached them and offered to help. The main character just wanted to say hello, but then he realized who it was that had approached. He suddenly fell silent. Yusuke seemed to have covered the girls from his sight with his body. He greeted him. The Reaper asked about the magic. The main character said that he would agree, but he had no money. However, the Grim Reaper did everything for free. He did not ask for money for it. A few moments later, thanks to his magic, he froze the apricot sticks. The protagonist thought that maybe he wasn't really that bad. He suggested that maybe he could at least take the chopsticks. He agreed, then turned away and ate. Then the Grim Reaper turned back to him and said that he wanted to buy 10 pieces. Yusuke thought to himself that he seemed to like it. The Grim Reaper began to look around the protagonist's stall. People passing by were afraid to approach him because they were afraid of him. Yusuke thought about when he would leave. To himself, he thought that he was honest and bought a lot. The main character turned to the girls and asked if it was true that he was killing people, to which Merle replied that she had seen him kill people from his group. Myra replied that she had seen him kill 10. Merle also added that he is a master of the sword. He cut a 2-meter snake into pieces. Myra added that he uses second-order magic. It is an amazing sight. Yusuke asked that maybe it was worth going to a more difficult dungeon then. Why waste your talents here in vain? Myra didn't know how to answer this question. Merle noticed the Grim Reaper looking at her. She wondered why that was happening. Maybe she was just very charming. That's a sin. When their gazes met, the Grim Reaper did not react in any way. The girl wondered if he was ignoring her. She realized that her brother's sweets attracted him more. Myra and Merle told the protagonist that they were going. The latter thought to himself that he didn't think that the Grim Reaper would come too. Evening came, the apricot sticks melted and lost their shape. Yusuke thought that it was okay. There were very few people at this time anyway. At this time, a girl in a hat approached him. She greeted him and asked him to give her more rockets. The main character agreed. Yusuke said that there were not many people today, to which she replied that a witch had been seen nearby. He asked if they had really seen Michelle. The girl was surprised at the third prize at that moment, and he congratulated her. She smiled and asked how she could get the monster chips she had seen at Merle's, to which he thought that monster chips would be a hit. In the end, he gets the goods for free, so he doesn't have to spend money on purchasing. He imagined the man in glasses telling him that he didn't want to sell sweets, but it's a very tricky thing. At that moment, a voice pulled him out of his thoughts. It turned out that it was the Grim Reaper who approached him. Yusuke greeted him. The latter asked the protagonist what he called him. Yusuke began to get nervous, as he did not expect it to come out. The Reaper was trying to say his name. So the man ended up saying that his name was Minerva. And then he pointed to the card where there was an orange and said that he wanted it. The main character checked with him and asked if he really wanted orange juice because he was poisoned. He thought to himself that the Reaper probably had scars all over his face. The Reaper answered that it was nothing to worry about. Then Yusuke took out a glass of water and with a smile on his face said that it would help him. He began to pour this powder into the water. Miranda tried to stop him, but he said that everything was fine. After that, the main character began to water the Grim Reaper himself. Under the mask, it was clear that he even blushed from these manipulations. Yusuke asked his opinion about the juice, whether it helps him. He answered positively. The main character after some time thought about whether Minerva is a female name or in this world, it is also the norm for men. On his counter, he saw that he had a new product. Scratch card gives a bonus to one of the statistics attributes according to a random set on the card. Duration, 12 hours. There is an additional bonus in the form of gum, costs 30 lira. The main character thought that such a product would suit gambling adventurers. There were many such cool things in Japanese stores. At that moment, Garm came up to him. He said hello and said he wanted some curry rice balls. He was a young adventurer who was also a regular customer. A good guy. Their party assistant stood next to him. Yusuke said that he hoped he would find something for himself. The guy introduced himself and said that it was nice to meet him. Regal said that he was a newbie, but he heard that there were a lot of cheap things for 10 lira here. The protagonist agreed with him. He thought that his shop was just for newbies who didn't have much money. At that moment, Myra and Merle approached them. The latter asked if the goods were really becoming more and more numerous, after which she added that it was cool. Myra wished them a good morning. Merle and Garm greeted each other. Yusuke showed them the map and told them that a certain part could be scratched with a coin. That's how they would know they had won. They would only win if they got 3 identical pictures. Garm asked if it was really only 30 lira, after which he said that he wanted to try. Merle also said that she would take it. The protagonist stopped her and asked her to drink a cola first. The adventurer began to erase the layer on the card. He had 3 identical pictures. He said that it was cool. Yusuke thought that this was a fairly common occurrence. As a result, Garm got 3 identical pictures. After that, a magic beam was directed from the card towards the guy's chest. He did not understand what was happening. A few seconds later, Garm said that he felt more confident. The protagonist said that the effect lasted 12 hours. He should hurry to the dungeon. The guy thanked him. The protagonist remembered that Merle had also taken such a card. He turned to her and saw that she had 3 completely different pictures. She called herself a loser, to which he tried to convince her otherwise. The girl gave him another coin and said that she needed another piece of paper. Yusuke wished her luck, and Myra recommended drinking cola. Merle said that it seemed that the presence of a witch on the lower floors was not just a rumor. She would like to improve her abilities. Myra agreed with her and said that at the current level they have no chance. The main character asked if the witch was really in the dungeon, where exactly. To which Myra replied that they say she was seen on the 3rd level, shot with a poisonous arrow, but she escaped. Yusuke thought about her words. He chuckled and thought about whether it was really a poisonous arrow and how long ago it was. He asked the girls out loud if they knew what she looked like, to which Merle replied that her portraits hung in front of the castle. At that moment, new customers came to his counter. One man said that Garm told him that he bought cards here, and the guy asked for candy and cola. Yusuke thought that the guy brought new customers again. The protagonist handed over their purchases to the adventurers. He thought to himself that in a little while he would be able to live normally on the profits from the store. After the morning customers, he could go shopping. After some time, Yusuke went shopping. He bought himself a leather backpack. Such a large backpack is used by adventurers. Since he can't always keep the store open, he will keep the necessary things here. He also bought a cheap blanket from a second-hand shop, because the nights in Batakuro are cold. He also had a vegetable soup for 150 lira and a large sausage for 350 lira for breakfast. Now that he has more money in his pocket, he can buy everything he needs and have a proper breakfast. He spent most of the money on his backpack, so he only has 3,000 lira left. After some time, he came to the square of the royal palace. That day, he had already walked for a long time. He thought that this square was much larger and cleaner than the square in front of the dungeon. Then he saw a notice board in front of him. Coming closer to her, he saw a wanted poster for a witch named Michelle. Having looked at her, he said that she was cute. At that moment, the unknown next to him asked if he really thought so. It turns out that there was a Grim Reaper standing next to him. The latter asked Yusuke what he was doing here. To which the guy replied that the guys were talking about a witch, he was interested in what she looked like. He thought to himself that he was not scary. The protagonist added that he was very sorry for the witch. At that moment, Minerva's eyes lit up. He wondered if he had really said something dangerous despite the warning. At that moment, the gloomy youth began to behave strangely. He seemed embarrassed, after which he asked if he really thought so. Was he really that good? Yusuke asked him what he was talking about. The main character said that he thought so. Maybe if he got to know her better, she would not really be so scary. He thought to himself that the Reaper's behavior was a little strange, but it was even better this way. The Grim Reaper decided to tell a story. For this reason, Yusuke decided to get some snacks. He got Carol's chocolate, which makes people happy. It costs 20 lira. He handed one to the Grim Reaper. The main character asked why the witch was not liked, to which he replied that people preferred more cheerful girls and also sexier ones. Yusuke said that, in his opinion, she was quite sexy, only tired. Minerva asked him if he really liked her, and then added that she had a nice butt and it was high. Yusuke said that if she smelled good, that would be even better. He thought to himself, what kind of topic of conversation was this? The main character asked him if he had met witches before, to which he replied that he had once upon a time. Then the guy asked if he liked them. The Reaper replied that such people were dangerous. After this, Minerva ate the offered chocolate and realized that it was strawberry. Yusuke explained that there were 4 flavors: strawberry, caramel, milk, and pistachio. The Reaper asked him to sell him all of them, then he asked his name. The main character said that his name was Yusuke Yahagi. The Grim Reaper's eyes lit up again and he repeated his name. Yusuke thought that maybe it was because of the chocolate, but they began to communicate more pleasantly. Their conversations became more frank. He said out loud that he was happy with the purchases, but eating a lot of sweets was harmful. The Reaper said that he could not stop. Minerva asked him what he liked to eat. The boy replied that he liked chicken and fruit the most, but had no particular preferences. The Reaper made it clear that he understood, and then turned the conversation back to the topic of witches. The Grim Reaper asked if he really thought the witch was cute, to which Yusuke replied that it was a matter of taste, and that it was better to meet her in person. And to himself he thought about why he was so persistent. After some time, the main character returned to the dungeon. He saw that there were so many people here. At that moment, he heard someone asking to give way because a guy had injured his leg. Someone needed healing magic. Yusuke looked at Regal and saw his wounds. People were saying that he was bleeding heavily. They might not make it to the hospital in time. The guy thought to himself, maybe there is some chocolate to restore physical strength. At that moment, the Grim Reaper approached them. He said that something had happened. The main character called him by name. Yusuke asked him if he had bandages, explained that he really needed them. To which Minerva replied that he didn't have bandages, but he could heal the wound. The guy cursed at first, and then asked him again. After some time, the Grim Reaper used his magic on the guy. The wound healed at the same time. The main character asked if he could really do that. It was really cool. The Reaper was embarrassed by his words. Regal stood in front of them, his appearance still painful, but he thanked the Grim Reaper for this. Yusuke thought about what happened in the dungeon. The protagonist thought that it was obvious, but the dungeon was a dangerous place. Did Merle and Myra really go to such a dangerous place every day? A few days later, on the same square near the dungeon, the main character set up his stall. Merle received a ghost knight card. Her rank was but Myra said that this was a great success for Merle. The girl said that today is one of her happiest days. She wants to activate it so much, but it is impossible. It will be her talisman. At this time, Yusuke was thinking that her lucky day, but he is having a bad day. He is having a hard time selling his goods. They hit his stall, broke the window. He gave out more change than he needed. He was only thinking about when it would all end. The girl suggested that she try the chocolate lottery. She said that she really wanted to try it. Yusuke said that she never gives up. At that moment, something caught his attention. It turns out that soldiers have come to the square. The main character became very tense and thought that this was not a denunciation of him, that he called the witch sweet. At this point, the men said that all sellers should prepare their license plates. A license check is being carried out. The main character was shocked by their words. He was surprised by the license plate. He thought about what it was. Was it really necessary to have a license to sell goods in this world? He didn't have one. Yusuke was thinking that things were bad. Should he call it quits and run away? However, he didn't want to do anything illegal in front of the regular customers. One of the soldiers approached him and asked for his token. The main character was very nervous, but he said that he was very sorry he didn't have it. These words were very difficult to say. Then the man asked how long he had been in business. Yusuke explained that it had been 8 days. The soldier asked if that was true and then added that they could send him to prison. The guy began to get very worried. But the man said that for such honesty, he would only issue a fine. He should get a license. If he wants to continue doing business in this city, he definitely needs to get one. Yusuke agreed with him and exhaled. After the man left, Merle told him that she had no idea he was so naive. He was running a business without a license. To which the protagonist objected and said that he was just new to the city. Merle said that he seemed so serious. Myra supported him and said that he was sometimes so stupid, but it was cute. Her friend asked her if she was serious, to which the girl answered positively. Merle looked closely at her friend and thought that she thought Myra had a talent for raising useless men. At this point, the main character asked how much the license cost. After the fine, there wasn't much money left. To which Myra replied that if she remembered correctly, it was about 12,000 lyre for trading. Yusuke was shocked. He asked again about the price, after which he added that he only had 4,200 lira left. Myra said that this was bad. The main character thought that he still had money to pay for the night, but if he couldn't do business, he would eventually die here. Merle said that he was lucky that she was kind. She said that there was only one place in the city where you could do business without a license. Myra said that it was true, then Yusuke asked where it was. The girl pointed her finger down, to which the main character said that it was not allowed here, he was fined. Merle answered him that she meant underground. The guy immediately said that he would never go there. Yusuke asked if she really meant for him to trade in the dungeon, to which the girls answered affirmatively, after which they said that he should enter it. He wondered if he would really do that. At this time, Michelle was standing in front of the window with various dishes lying in front of her. She was humming a song, her face was flushed. She had packed a bento box. Then the girl got dressed, almost left the room, but remembered that she forgot to put on a mask. In the corridor, she ran into a man. He wanted to run into her, but stopped abruptly. The Grim Reaper seemed to look at him angrily, causing the man to say that he was so scary, after which he ran away. The Reaper thought that he wanted to apologize. A new day had come. It was early morning. The action took place near the entrance to the dungeon. The girls greeted the main character and wished him good morning. Yusuke was very nervous. He was shaking slightly. Merle laughed at him and asked why he was so nervous, to which the guy explained that this was his first dungeon. Merle said with a smile on her face that he would not go into the depths to fight the witch, and she would destroy all the monsters on the floor. Yusuke said that she was simply a beauty. The main character thought that he can no longer sell sweets near the dungeon because he does not have a license, but inside it he can do it, so he decided that he can enter the dungeon. But he is still worried. They went inside. Yusuke noted that the walls were glowing. He thought to himself that it looked like a subway entrance, and the dungeon at the entrance looked the same. Myra explained that this staircase had 60 steps. She told Merle that, as she had promised, she would take him to a place where he could do business, after which she thanked him for the sweets. He told her to enjoy them, after which he said that they were 30 lyre each. They finally went down. The main character said that in any case it would be great to continue doing business, even in such a place. Myra said that it is true that you can't trade near the entrance without a license. Merle added that even adventurers would complain about the lawlessness. Then Myra said that the dungeon itself had begun. Merle asked him to hold on. While they were going down, he looked around. Merle continued to giggle at him. She also told him that he was trying so hard. There were 2 zones from here to their destination. Myra said that it was good that there were no monsters. He thanked the girls and said that as promised, they could take their favorite sweets. Merle immediately chose the chip monsters. Yusuke apologized and said that he did not take them because he decided to take only the most necessary things. Merle's face immediately changed. Tears appeared in her eyes. The main character asked her not to look at him like that because it could be dangerous here. He thought to himself that, by the way, he gave the chips he could finish to the owner of Bodakuro. She was very pleased, although it seemed to him that the distance between them had decreased again. And in that pack he found a very valuable map. Maybe it will be useful to him. The girls said that they were going. He wished them to take care of themselves. They also wished in return and said that they would return in the evening. The protagonist turned around and saw several people. He decided to say hello and said that he was Yahagi, a sweets seller. The girl said that her name was Murai, she sells restorative tea, and Sanaga was a blacksmith. Here the man heard something, then Yusuke asked what was going on. His new acquaintances said that monsters were coming. They thought about what to do. The protagonist thought that he knew this could happen, but he had a map. He saw 4 goblins appear in front of them. Yusuke thought that it was time to play a card. He used the summon monster. A goblin of rank C appeared in front of them, a standard summon monster that even beginners can easily handle. He realized that his monster was only 1. However, the main character decided that it was not scary, after which he gave instructions to his monster to start acting. With just a few blows he dealt with 1 goblin. Everyone started shouting about how strong he was. Yusuke said that he was good, now it was necessary to deal with the rest. His monster was surrounded by 3 goblins. The protagonist thought that there were many more of them. He needed to summon another monster. Then he summoned a feathered piranha and a fairy pixie. After some time, his monsters dealt with the remaining goblins. Yusuke rubbed his forehead and thought about how he had managed to win. Sanaga said that he was surprised because there were 4 of them. The protagonist asked if it was really strange. Murai explained that usually only one comes out of the fog. Yusuke thanked the goblin, after which he disappeared because 3 minutes had passed since the summoning. His acquaintances told him to take the gold and magic crystals. He understood how they make money in the dungeons. The main character asked if he could share, to which the man replied that he was the one who won. It was up to him to decide. If so, then there was no need to be shy. After the exchange, he received 200 lira from the 4 goblins. Sanaga explained that 1 magic crystal costs about 10 lira. Then Yusuke thought about what it meant that in total it came out to 240 lira. Murai said that it was scary, she was so glad that the summoner was with them. To which he replied that he was just a pastry chef. Then the girl asked if he really meant confectionery magic. At that moment, the adventurers he already knew came down into the dungeon and said that they would not have thought that he would open a store in such a place. He greeted them. The protagonist used his opening skill and then asked them with a smile what kind of sweet they wanted this time. They said they wanted squid on a stick for 10 lira 4 pieces. He said he loved his job. It was midday. He thought that it was quiet here after midday. Then he turned to his acquaintances and asked if they were really still working at such a time. To which they replied that their main work was only just beginning. At this time, the Grim Reaper came down. He turned to the main character and asked if he was really there, after which he explained that he was looking for him. Yusuke asked if he was really looking for him. To which Minerva abruptly turned away from him and said that he was simply looking around the square. Then, as if embarrassed, the Reaper suggested that if he wanted, they could eat together. After which he put a bento box in front of him. When the box opened, Yusuke saw that there was a sandwich with chicken and bacon, lettuce and tomatoes. For dessert, a fruit platter. He asked if this was possible. To which the Reaper replied that he had accidentally made more than he would eat. The main character immediately took the sandwich, took a bite and said that it was very tasty, he really knows how to cook. Minerva asked if he really thought so. The Grim Reaper began to shake with pleasure and said that it was delicious. Yusuke thought that this was a reaction again, it was making him a little nervous. The protagonist offered to buy him some tea, after which he turned to Murai and asked her for a cup of tea. She was afraid of the Reaper but agreed with him. Minerva asked what he was doing and told him not to talk to other girls. The Grim Reaper said that he was deceived by the charm of a mature woman. Yusuke looked at him and thought that maybe he hadn't eaten enough. After some time, the girls returned. Merle said that tomorrow they should open the store even deeper. In the basement next to the stairs, there is a large room, there is enough space for a store. Yusuke thought about her words. The girl said that this is a place that adventurers use to relax, so she is sure that you can earn more there. The main character asked where to go, to which Myra said that they will take him there. At that moment, a Grim Reaper appeared behind Myra, who said that the girl who flirts with the main character, when he is in a good mood, he will kill her. Merle asked the protagonist if he would go deeper, to which he resolutely answered yes. Morning came, the girls were very tired, they wished him good morning. At that moment, the Grim Reaper appeared next to them. He said what a coincidence. Yusuke asked if he was really here, to which he replied that apparently their fates were similar. Together, they entered the dungeon. The protagonist thought that he had to go 2 more floors to a new point. The passage was wider than he thought. Merle said that this was because sometimes there could be a lot of people here. The Grim Reaper asked if they had taken him to the break room to do whatever he wanted. Merle said that it was for the purpose of opening a store. Yusuke thought that the Grim Reaper had been so strange lately. Merle said that they came, this is the rest room. The protagonist said that it is so big he thought to himself that the size is more like a banquet hall in a mansion. Then he used the opening skill. A fairly large tent appeared in front of him with a counter next to it. But he was surprised that he had really increased his level that much. Merle asked what was written there, to which Yusuke replied that it indicated the name of the store. She said that it was some kind of strange spelling, after which she became interested in one of the products. It turns out that there is a slot machine. In it, you need to toss 10 coins around the edge, which they put near the lever. If you go to the 7th basement floor, a prize will appear. You can only use 10 coins at a time, it looks great. The main character thought about the fact that it is more expensive than the Japanese ones. Could it be because of this prize? The prize is a panacea. Yusuke asked if it was a good reward. To which Myra replied that it was amazing. She said that it was worth at least 1 million lira. Even advanced adventurers rarely see people who have it. Merle, hearing this, asked again, after which she said that she needed to win. The main character wished her good luck. Yusuke said that she was doing well. She said that since everything did not depend on luck, then she had a chance. After all, she was a talented woman. Merle tried this game several times, but each time she failed. The main character tried to tell her about her money, but she seemed not to hear him. At this time, she turned around and saw a crowd of adventurers behind her. Upset, she said that it was time for them to go. Yusuke wished them to take care of themselves. Evening came, the last customers left the dungeon. He wished them pleasant dreams, after which he thought about hurrying to close and go home. Today's revenue was 40-20 lira. Then he looked at the machine again and thought that only Merle was making progress now. Since he was the owner, he could try too, but he needed coins for that. He thought that in his past life there was a man who showed him how to play. And the panacea itself turned out to be more of a sweet. He thought that it would be something in a bottle. The protagonist thought that the dungeon was dangerous. He needed it, but the only way to get it was to win. Daily sales increased. It would be better to continue the work of the shop here. First of all, the regular customers of the shop are very happy. At that moment, his regular customers ran up to him. The Grim Reaper also came in and asked him if he was going home. He said that he was worried about his safety, but since the girls were here, he hoped that they would let him join. Yusuke said that he was kind. The protagonist asked if there was another secluded place, to which Merle asked what had happened. He explained that he wanted to win the panacea, but if he yelled in the hotel, he would be thrown out. Then the girl suggested that she could just do it on the street, to which he replied that he could be robbed. At that moment, the Grim Reaper offered him his house. The girls were embarrassed. Yusuke asked if he really had his own house, to which he replied that he had rented one the other day. Then he asked if he could play. The Reaper answered positively. Minerva said that he should just have dinner with him, after which he could do whatever he wanted. The protagonist asked if he was taking this too seriously. The Reaper said that he just wanted to help his friend. Yusuke smiled sweetly and said that then he would fulfill his request. The girls at that moment became completely embarrassed, and Michelle at that moment was thinking about whether this was really a dream. The main character would come to her home. She is so glad that she was not afraid to take him by the shoulders. In the end, she is driven by love. She thought that she didn't know how to tell him that she was the witch Michelle, so she would have to love him in secret. The protagonist said that he bought adventurer clothes from the stall in front of the dungeon. His old clothes don't fit here. Then he chose clothes for the house. He thought that the business of the dungeon was going well. At this rate, he would soon move out of Bodakuro. Then she turned to the Grim Reaper and asked if he had heating. He answered positively. Yusuke thought that today he would stay with his first friend in the new world. He asked the Reaper if he drank alcohol, after which he offered to take some. The main character was very happy. He talked about how they now had wine. He couldn't wait for the evening. Mitchell was thinking about what he wanted to do. At this time, Merle and Myra were peeping at them. They thought that this definitely looked like a date. Myra asked her friend if it was normal for men to have such relationships, to which the girl replied that it was like in the novel she had counted. The girls continued to follow them. When they turned the corner, they saw that the main character and the Reaper had disappeared. They thought that they had lost them. At this time, the Grim Reaper welcomed him home. Yusuke said that it was such a quiet place. Minerva said that it was just blocking magic. The protagonist asked if he could come in. He said that it was such a nice place. The Grim Reaper said that it could be better. He asked him not to be modest. Yusuke was surprised that there was even a bathroom there. The Reaper said that he could take it if he wanted, after which he asked what he might want to eat. Then Michelle imagined the picture of the main character going to his bathroom, blood pouring out of her nose. Yusuke asked if she was really vomiting blood, after which he asked her to hold on. To which the Reaper apologized and said that his power was out of control, but he was fine. Yusuke said that he just didn't look very good. Minerva said that he was fine, he just had a lot of power, and sometimes it made itself known. The main character thought about whether this was really the reaction to a magician. The Reaper asked him to take a bath while he was cooking. He doesn't want him to come into the kitchen while he's cooking. Michelle thought that the thought of what she could do for Yusuke made her nose bleed. Time to take off the mask and try. She used her skills dancing blade, desert barrier to cook food. This is her best magic. Love games are amazing. Michelle imagined Yusuke in front of her and thought about how pumped he was, although she knew he was handsome, but she was no less surprised by this. She wants to touch him right now. The main character offered his help. The Reaper offered him to play while he waited. He said that this is why he came. He completely forgot. Yusuke thought that now it is possible to summon only those things that are necessary. Today he came to Minerva's house to try to win the elixir. He hopes that he will be lucky. After some time, the main character came to eat. On the table there was grilled lamb on the bone with mustard, lobster mousse, and red wine. Yusuke said that it looked delicious. The Reaper said that there was also dessert. He asked Minerva that he would not eat, to which the latter said that he would take off his mask. The guy waited to see his face. However, under the mask there was another mask. The Reaper explained that he uses magic to hide his face so that there would be no problems. They wished each other a bon appetit. Yusuke said that it was delicious, he was full, the Reaper was happy with his words. Michelle thought that she couldn't sleep. He had spoiled her so much today that she didn't want to let him out of the house. She couldn't live without him. It would be possible to create an endless corridor from which he would never get out. Then she realized that if she did that, he would hate her. When Yusuke heard her whining, he thought that it was cats fighting. A new day has come. The main character began to open his eyes and saw the Grim Reaper in front of his face. He was leaning right over him. Yusuke jumped up abruptly. The Reaper wished him good morning. Then the guy asked him what he was doing there. He replied that he was watching him sleep. The main character saw some diagrams in front of him. The Reaper said that it was an endless corridor. The guy said that it sounded ominous. Was he really conducting some kind of magical research? He replied that it was something else. Yusuke leaned over to him and said that since he hadn't slept until midnight because of him, he would like to thank him for staying with him. After this, the main character put his hands on the Grim Reaper's shoulders and began to gently massage them. Then Yusuke found some point that his friend responded to the most and asked if that was really the most pleasant thing. He thought to himself that the guy had a surprisingly slender body. The main character started joking with him and offered to become his servant for the glory of evil. Michelle was so pleased with the massage that she easily agreed to it. Yusuke said that he was joking, after which he removed his hands from the Reaper. He also told his friend that he seemed rather closed. The Grim Reaper explained that it was just that everyone usually ran away when they saw him, to which Yusuke asked if he had ever run away before. Said that he would simply understand that he had to be more careful with him. The main character thanked him for his help and said that the breakfast was very tasty. The Reaper asked him if he was really going to the dungeon again today. He answered positively, then Minerva suggested going together. On the way there, Yusuke asked him if he was also chasing a witch. He replied that it was a waste of time. The Reaper said that he had more important things to do and showed one thing. The main character asked if it was a magical thing. The friend explained that this amulet stored magical power. Yusuke asked what this had to do with the dungeons, to which he replied that in the deepest part of it, there is a rift from which a high concentration of magical essence flows out. There he experiments, filling the spheres with magic. He wants to leave the city, but there are no such rifts anywhere else. After some time, they reach the rest room in the dungeon. Yusuke thanked him for seeing him off. At that moment, the Grim Reaper handed him a bento. The protagonist took it in his hands and was surprised at why it was so heavy. Minerva said that he was going to go down as deep as possible, so he would be gone for 3 days. Yusuke wished him to take care of himself. After some time, the first customers began to arrive. He asked Regal how his leg was, to which he thanked him for his help and asked to pass it on to the Grim Reaper. He replied that he would do so. Then Yusuke saw a bruise on the guy's arm. He asked where it came from, to which the guy replied that it was from a fall, just a scratch, nothing to worry about. To this, the main character said that he had something for such a thing. Yusuke took out a Moroccan pumpkin which has the effect of slightly restoring wounds. It costs 20 lira. Now you can heal wounds in the pastry shop. A few seconds later, the wound disappeared. Regal said that although it was less effective than Murai's restorative tea, the pumpkin was cheap and could be taken with you. Yusuke was pleased. Then the girls came running, and Merle asked if there really were sweets that healed wounds, after which she said what she wanted. Myra wished him good morning. The girl noticed that her friend had recently hit herself. At that moment, Merle, eating a sweet, turned to the main character about yesterday. However, she was interrupted by other adventurers who said that they should be given 4 Moroccan pumpkins. It turned out to be Garm. Merle immediately pouted, to which the latter asked what had happened. The girl told him to keep his turn. It was midday and all the people suddenly disappeared. In the evening, the girls came to him again. Merle tried to win the panacea. She complained that she had already tried 20 times and still made mistakes. The main character said that this game has its own subtleties. After a while, he thought about what he wanted to eat, after which he remembered Minerva's bento. Inside was a luxurious set of dishes. At that moment, Merle looked inside and asked if this was really a bento from a loved one, to which the main character said that the name of this wife sounds like Minerva. Although it is feminine, but this is a guy, they are just friends, to which the girl tried to argue with him. Myra agreed with her, to which Merle asked if she really thought the same. She answered in the affirmative. Her friend said with a smile on her face that they looked like friends. Merle immediately shouted at her that she was wrong. The girl said that Yusuke and Minerva should not do anything. Then Myra asked her why she was angry. The friend answered that it was because the Reaper loved the main character. Yusuke and Myra were shocked by her words. The guy said that she was wrong. Myra asked what she really thought about it. The girl answered that she was right. Merle asked the protagonist if he hadn't guessed, to which he replied that he had had that feeling. The girl said that he wouldn't have made such a cool bento. He agreed that the bento was indeed big. Yusuke explained that it wasn't like a confession or anything. It was ain't good to jump to conclusions. He said that he felt like she was making trouble out of nothing. The girl was upset by his words and told her friend that they needed to go and earn some money. Myra said goodbye to the main character. The latter again asked them to take care of themselves. He thought to himself that Minerva was a good person. Despite everything, she was kind to him. If you think about it, it was like he hated girls. The main character thought that he would be gone for 3 days 6, so it was useless to think about it now. He would decide everything later. 3 days later, another morning came. They encountered the Grim Reaper. The latter said that it was such a coincidence. Minerva asked if he was going to the dungeon and then offered to take him there. To which Yusuke thought that he could go up the stairs himself, but out loud he simply agreed. Then the Reaper put a bento in front of him and said that it was for him. The protagonist thought that he was big again. Then he remembered Merle's words and thought that maybe he should ask directly. He was wondering if he should do it now. Yusuke turned to Minerva, who responded, after which he placed a sweet on his palm. It turned out to be a panacea from the machine. He pulled it out in gratitude for the bento. It was a bit unexpected. The main character said that the Reaper is strong, but one should not forget about safety. He will get another one for himself. If he succeeded, he will do it again. Minerva then agreed to take her. Michelle realized one thing when their hands first touched. He was her other half. Could this really be love when he gave her what he himself so desired? She carefully held the panacea in her hands and thought that there was only an illness that she needed to cure. She said that she would never forget this. At this time, the girls came running into the dungeon. Merle immediately shouted that she wanted a Moroccan pumpkin. Myra greeted him. Merle said that the pumpkin was tiny and asked if there was anything bigger. To which the guy replied that a little later he would be able to offer her a larger package that was 10 times bigger. At that moment, the Grim Reaper crept up behind her and began to fight her. The rest of the regular customers also came. He thought about how when he was told that he would run a pastry shop, he thought about what it would bring him. He likes his job, he would like it to last forever. At this time, a dialogue takes place in the castle. The man was told about the witch and the panacea. The king asked where she got it, to which the guard explained that it was in the store in the dungeon. At this time, the main character stood in front of the capsule apparatus. It contains miniature furniture. The first issue is a set of chairs and sofas. The capsule is 300 lira. Yusuke said that this is very fine work. Merle said that no one does it because it is too easy. Myra confirmed her words. The girl also explained that it was expensive, 300 lira for a piece of furniture. Yusuke thought that they were all realists. He asked out loud what it was even though they were of good quality. At that moment he heard a voice that said what he wanted. Yusuke turned around and saw no one. It turned out that a small gnome was talking to him. They bought all the capsules. One of them gave him a map of the hot spring and said that it appeared on the second floor of the dungeon. The gnome thanked him for selling such good things and then asked him to use them at his own discretion. The protagonist was surprised by this. At that moment the Grim Reaper heard about the spring. He thought that it was impossible to swim there. He called the girls stupid. Yusuke explained that the hot springs were taken separately. Merle added that even though they were friends, it would never come to that. Myra told them to relax, it was just a bath. Morning came, they all met at the entrance to the dungeon. Merle said that she wanted to get going as soon as possible. Yusuke thought about going to the hot springs. Minerva was the hardest to persuade. The Grim Reaper stood there, his body shaking. Yusuke asked if everything was okay. He replied that he had been dealing with the pests all night. The protagonist replied that he hoped that everything had worked out for him. Yusuke said that apparently there are no monsters at the hot springs, so you can rest. The Grim Reaper said that he cannot sleep. Minerva said that he would make sure that they did not do anything shameful. The protagonist said that he did not mean that. Yusuke thought that before he had only watched people go down, but this was his first time. He was worried. Myra said that this is the way to the second floor. Merle said that it is harder on the second floor than on the first. The main character began to worry even more. Suddenly he heard a noise and asked if there were monsters nearby, to which Merle said that it was the first time in her life she had heard such a cry. Myra said that the rhythm was similar to the singing of a flower insect, but it sounded like a bird. The Grim Reaper said that there was no need to worry, the dove had just wandered into the dungeon. Everyone was surprised by his words. The main character realized that there were several pigeons. Minerva said that they had gotten lost in a crowd. He said that they just needed to go further because the deeper, the more flower insects. These are those little creatures that squeak when he's around. If they figure it out, he won't be able to go to the hot springs with Yusuke. She tried to burn them all yesterday, but it didn't work. Then she had a brilliant idea. She simply replaced their sound. Only this plan took the whole night. Will she be okay because she wants to sleep so much? A goblin suddenly appeared in front of her. However, the Reaper cut off his head with one blow of his weapon. Then he dealt with the rest of the monsters. The main character said that he, as always. Minerva reported that they had finally arrived. Merle said that there was a dead end. Yusuke said that the dwarf had taught him a spell. The protagonist knelt down on one knee. A magic seal appeared on the ground. A moment later, the doors began to open. Pointing his finger at the door, the black-robed adventurer warns that there are no traces of monsters, and the hot spring is located behind this door right in front of them. The door opened. Merle happily exclaimed how big the room was. Myra smiled at the girl's restlessness. Minerva wondered what was behind the next door. The guy approached the door. Upon entering, they were greeted by a huge bathtub full of hot water, enveloped in thick steam. Seeing this, the girl exclaimed with joy. The main character was surprised that the source was right here. Myra smiled, saying that the hot water was so warm. Yusuke told the girls to go first and they would wait in the other room. Merle happily raised her hands, declaring that they were going, to which the young lady with bangs smiled, expressing a desire for it to happen as soon as possible. The young man looked at the man in black and became slightly nervous from the silence in the room. Minerva stood sideways to him without saying a word for several seconds. After a moment of silence, the guy asked him not to be angry, to which the Reaper looked at him questioningly, while he continued to tell him to be a man, to which the Reaper responded positively. The guy smiled in a friendly manner and slapped him on the back, saying that something was always happening at the springs. The man staggered from the slap and tried to say something. Yahagi turned his head again, reminding the girls that they were waiting for them. Merle answered positively, already taking off her dress. Myra smiled, answering that they were already on their way. The door closed behind them. The protagonist turned his attention to another door and wondered if there shouldn't be monsters in that room, to which Minerva clarified that the source was simply surrounded by a barrier. Appeared informing about the door opening, Yusuke became nervous, looking forward, not knowing what to expect this time. A refrigerator with different bottles on the shelves appeared in front of them. The young man and the Reaper approached the object. The man in black robes immediately asked what kind of box it was, to which the guy explained that it was a refrigerator. It allows you to keep cold. System windows about the contents of the refrigerator appeared. Ramune, a drink that improves magical blood circulation, as well as Nikki, a drink that has an antipyretic effect. The young man took 2 bottles out of the refrigerator and smiled, saying that it would be cool to add some more candies to the refrigerator. Minerva expressed a desire to try Ramune, to which the boy suggested trying it after the bath, since it would seem much tastier that way. The door from the bathroom opened. Merle and Myra returned to the room, smiling, relaxed, and talking about how their whole body was relaxing and the water was very pleasant. Clouds of steam formed around the girls from their skin, steamed in the hot springs. The girl with a contented smile and her hair pinned up had a shiny forehead, which made the young man wonder if the source had a skin-improving effect. Then he turned his attention to the object in Myra's hands that looked like a firearm, and reminded her that she bought it yesterday and asked how she liked it. The girl smiles relaxedly and says that it is very cool to hold the object in her hands. A system window appeared. A water gun is a toy that you can play with by filling it with water, and it also has a massage effect. The girl with bangs looks at the toy with satisfaction and says that this toy helped her with her numb shoulders. The guy smiled awkwardly, rhetorically wondering why her shoulders were tired, while his gaze was just below her face. But he was glad that the gun seemed to really work. The main character took 2 water pistols in his hands and looked at Minerva, saying that they also needed to try using them, especially since they had a massage effect. The Reaper initially ignored him, thinking about something of his own and not paying attention to him. The young man asked what was going on. When the man in the mask realized that they were talking to him, he turned his head, looking questioningly at the guy. The young man repeats again, calling the Reaper into the bathroom. The man in the mask did not fully understand whether they were talking to him, so he asked whether they were talking to him, to which Yahagi confirmed his question. Minerva shuddered at the boy's offer, after which he turned away, forcing the young man asked in surprise what was wrong again, to which the Reaper nervously turned away, urging the guy to go to the bathroom. Yusuke warned the girls about leaving by offering to take cold drinks from the refrigerator, to which Merle happily ran to the refrigerator, and Myra thanked him for such an offer. The main character began to undress and, noticing Minerva's gaze just below the waist, decided to ask where he was looking and, just in case, covered himself with his hands. Minerva began to apologize, saying that this was new to him. The young man assumed that they probably had a custom of covering themselves in the bathroom and wrapped a towel around his waist, to which the Reaper replied that he should do as he felt comfortable. Still looking just below his waist, he clarified that he could get used to this. Yahagi asked why he should get used to this, but without waiting for an answer, the main character said that it was not important and called the adventurer into the bath. Already stepping his foot into the hot water, to which the man in the mask only agreed. The young man sat down in the bath in a relaxed manner, put a small towel on his head, saying how nice it was and urging Minerva to join him as soon as possible. The adventurer finally came out saying that, like his face, he can't show his body yet, so he wonders if he can use the lock. The young man looked at this thing with surprise, but still said to do as he wants. The Reaper mentioned that he would see everything one day. The guy only assured him that there was no need to worry, although he mentally noted that it sounded ambiguous. Behind Yusuke, an apology and the steps of a man were heard. Yusuke only agreed. Minerva, with a bandage on her head, slowly sank into the water in complete silence with an empty look, as if she didn't understand what she was doing there. The young man looked directly at the part of the body just below the girl's shoulders. The priestess became nervous, mentally convincing herself that the guy could not see anything through her blocking. From the protagonist's perspective, Minerva looked like a blurry silhouette of a man. The young man noticed that the man had well-developed pectoral muscles, as expected from a tough adventurer. The young man stood up abruptly from the water. The girl's gaze fell again just below the guy's waist. Remembering that he wanted to try water pistols with the adventurer, but looking around he noticed that they were gone, and the chair was gone. Remembering that Myra had decided to use a pistol before. Minerva smiled slightly and looking at the young man, asked about the chair and said that she could help with it. The girl stretched out her hand forward and, opening her palm, summoned a magical seal from which a slight glow emanated. 2 identical chairs and 2 pistols appeared in the room against the wall. Yahagi took aim and fired a stream of water from the water pistol into his neck, almost between his shoulder blades. Realizing that everything was working, he joyfully exclaimed that everything was working, telling Minerva to try too. The adventurer turned around, looking at how he was shooting in the middle and agreed. The girl carefully stood up from the water and aimed the water pistol at her neck just below her shoulder blades. The young man stood behind her. The priestess felt a pleasant massage effect, after which she let out a satisfied sigh, feeling relief, and how her muscles relaxed after a long day. The young man asked how it felt, to which the girl, slightly trembling, admitted with satisfaction that it was very pleasant, to which he readily agreed with her. The guy politely offered to shoot her in the back, to which she nervously asked why this was necessary, to which the main character clarified that she herself would not be able to get there. Minerva was terribly embarrassed, going over his ambiguous words in her head and becoming even more embarrassed at the prospect. She intertwined her fingers together and then sharply hit the young man in the side, desperately refusing his offer. The adventurer turned away from him in embarrassment, clutching her reddened cheeks with her hands and saying that it was still too early for this, while the guy was coming to his senses after the blow and wondering what was too early, and then offering to go get ramune, to which she agreed. Hot spring bath. Merle tearfully asks Yasuke how to open a bottle of soft drink, after which he only clarifies that they do not know how to do it and then opens the bottle. All the young ladies were pleased, saying that it was sweet and pleasant, and that the flow of magical power inside the body became smoother. The main character took a few sips of the drink, and joyfully exclaimed that in the end it was simply delicious. Picking up the bottle and looking at the drink, Yusuke remembered the summer holidays, fairs, public baths, and thought about what ramune is. He thinks that it is a drink that is associated with important memories. Looking closely at the bubbles inside the bottle, memories from the past came flooding back to the young man, and this memory of today was also connected with ramune and sank into his heart. The room was filled with clouds of steam from the hot springs, and the water was murmuring. Several people were sitting on a stone bench made by Minerva. The main character noted with satisfaction how nice and quiet it was here. There were no monsters, so he could sit quietly. Merle smiled and said that she was starting to feel sleepy, to which Marie noted that after resting she could easily go to the monsters on the 2nd floor. The young man and the girl with braided bangs remembered about work and cried out, looking at Marie, who looked at them questioningly. A week later, the entrance to the hot springs. Now adventurers can relax in the hot springs. The division between the man and the woman at the hot springs was created by Minerva using earth magic. 2 adult men asked the protagonist for 2 water pistols, to which he responded positively. The confectionery has become especially popular, especially the water pistol. The massage after the adventure seems special. Perhaps because of this, the number of clients of veteran adventurers has increased. 2 adventurers bought pistols, already asking to shoot at the numb parts of the body. The protagonist heard the hot spring adventurers say how good it was for them, so he decided not to distract them from their relaxing process. The guy returned to the counter selling the goods, noting that the drinks also became more active after the source. The demand for coffee with milk and fruit juices also increased. The young man also suggested that Murai, the tea maker, and Sanaga, the blacksmith, work together. This was also part of the great success. The blacksmith thanked the guy for the invitation. The teapot smiled, saying that he helped a lot. Also, the young man noted that the game with the ball is very popular because all adventurers want a panacea. There was a whole line for the machine with the game. The room and happily said the name of the spring, Onsen Yahagi. Yunsha smiled awkwardly. Realizing that the only problem left at the moment is that people began to call the source by his name, although this is already too much. And regardless of the name, the main character hopes that this source will become a good resting place for adventurers. Several people in armor go to the main door. The young man immediately noticed the soldiers entering inside, which surprised him greatly. The voice of a man following the soldiers was heard, asking if there was a pastry shop here. Yahagi entered the establishment, slightly plump in rich clothes and jewelry. But although he had a gloomy expression on his face, he looked like a kind, elderly man. Yusuke, clearly surprised by the current situation, directed his stunned gaze at the short man and began to wonder who he was and whether this man was an aristocrat. Entrance to the hot spring. The young man was surrounded by several soldiers in knightly robes, not allowing him to move away from the wall. The guy became nervous as he was again surrounded by soldiers. The girls and customers of the pastry shop became nervous watching this scene. The aristocrat stepped in front of the soldiers, looking ahead. A man looks at a young man wondering if there is a pastry shop here, Yahagi, to which the main character responds positively, clarifying that he was told that a license is not needed for a store in the dungeon. The aristocrat was silent for a few seconds, after which he apologized but said that this was not so and ordered the soldiers to move away so that they would not interfere with their conversation. When the soldiers obediently stepped aside, the older man sharply asked whether the rumors that they were selling a panacea here were true. The young man sighed with relief upon learning that this man had come here only for this. After which the young man pointed to the slot machine and said that this is exactly what the man needed. A regular slot machine for luck. After a long explanation of how it works, the aristocrat happily and persistently expressed a desire to try it since the panacea is a prize. The guy noted that the man looks imperious, but it seems that he has no bad intentions. The older man handed him a shiny coin with a carved design worth 100,000 lyre in one coin and asked if he could exchange it. But unfortunately, the main character did not have one of that size. The rich man got upset and asked his soldiers if they had any change, to which the men in armor immediately began rummaging through their wallets, giving him their coins. The aristocrat took the coins, intending to try to play. But unfortunately, the main character noticed that this was a popular game, so he would have to wait for the queue that had formed in front of the machine, and suggested that he stand at the end of the queue. The young man noted that after all, the rich man seemed like a good person deep down. With unspent confidence, the man said that he understood the rules, but after some time of playing the machine, the aristocrat ran out of coins. The man looked at the young man and said that he began to doubt whether it was possible to pass it at all, to which he only assured him that it was quite possible. The main character approached the slot machine with confidence in his eyes, to demonstrate that it was entirely possible to win. Having dropped a coin into the machine, the young man began to play. When the coin fell into a special compartment, his winnings fell into the box. Taking the box in his hand, he showed it to the aristocrat, saying that this is how it can be done. Seeing this, the man bowed and began to beg the guy to give him this panacea, to which Yahagi awkwardly refused, arguing that otherwise others would also start asking for the prize. The aristocrat insisted, introducing himself as the court aristocrat Mo Essel, and that this medicine was very much needed for His Majesty the King. The guy made sure that he was a nobleman and asked if Lion was planning to present the panacea to His Majesty. The man confirmed this and continued that if things continued like this, the royal affairs would drag on, which could cause problems for the country. Mari clarified that she was sorry, but she would still have to help. Yusuke thought about it and took a deep breath, realizing that there was nothing left to do but agree and give the aristocrat the panacea, because it was for the king. Sighing, he agreed, but only once, and specifying that next time he would have to win himself, and mentally reproaching himself for never giving in to something like this before. The man happily thanked and specified that the king would recover thanks to this medicine. The aristocrat and his soldiers hurriedly left the pastry shop. The protagonist holds a coin worth 100,000 lyre in his hand because the man simply left it there. Yahagi looked at Minerva and asked if the king was under a curse and if it could be lifted, to which she categorically responded with a harsh refusal, making it clear to the protagonist that this was not yet possible. And she continued by clarifying that the curse cannot be removed, the panacea will cure it, but only for a while, after which everything will return back. The protagonist suggested that the old man might come again. Minerva confirmed his words and added that the effect of the curse would soon pass. To which the guy asked how she knew this, to which the adventurer nervously replied that she had simply heard about it, after which he tried to clarify from whom, and she immediately replied that from the witch, making him wonder if they knew each other. A few days later, a system window appeared about a new discovery which made the young man nervous. A system window appeared about the contents of the box with the figurine. Mobile Warrior Gungulf plastic model of the robot cost 300 lyre. Assembles without glue, can move with the help of magic. This pleased the young man that the model was popular and of good quality. We must take into account the technologies of other dimensions, thought the main character. Minerva asked with interest whether this figure was a small golem, to which the guy replied that it was a model that could be assembled and played with. Also, the main character Yusuke explained that there are different types of models in the form of a sky soldier and a water machine gun, each of which has its own advantages. Minerva was interested in this. The young man began to assemble the model with ease, noting that no additional tools were needed for its assembly, demonstrating this to the man in black robes. Having attached the last part, the guy happily began to check the mobility of the robot and each of its components, saying that these mechanisms are amazing. Taking the instructions and reading that you can play with the robot using magic, but you need to put it on your forehead. Hesitantly bringing the figure to his forehead, a shudder ran through him, after which he put the robot on a flat surface. Yahagi concentrated and mentally told the Gangulf to come out. The robot didn't move for a few seconds, but then its mechanical leg moved forward with his magical control without any problems. The main character was amazed and delighted that the model moved as he expected, and it seemed that it could also speak, although he did not yet know for sure. While his robot was moving slowly and uncertainly, a model of another type ran past. The protagonist was surprised that the adventurer took the villain's mech, to which she only replied that she chose it based on the type of weapon. Continuing, she clarified that adjusting the magic power is also important for stable operation. The robot actively raised its hands up. The young man put his hands to his forehead and concentrated on adjusting. Gathering his strength, he called the robot to action, after which, under the guy's control, the model did a somersault and again stood up straight on its mechanical legs, as if nothing had happened a couple of seconds ago. When everything worked out, the young man was very happy with this result. Minerva, watching from the side, noticed that Yusuke, as always, surprised with his skills. Abruptly and without warning, the protagonist's robot grabbed and knocked down Minerva's robot, causing her to be very surprised. The young man smiled sarcastically and explained that according to the rules of the fight, if you knock your opponent down and count to 3, you win. Continuing to taunt, the boy asked if the adventurer was ready to lose. Gangulf held the heavenly soldier tightly. Minerva became nervous, wondering how this had happened. Myra and Merle returned to the establishment, and seeing what was happening there, wondered what they had done with the toys. The main character turned around in surprise at the girls who had returned. Yahagi confidently and proudly declared that this was professional wrestling, and wondered how they couldn't understand it while looking at them with a little surprise and confidence in his words. After long explanations about the rules and the essence of the combat competitions between mechanical warriors, Merle became very enthusiastic about this, and asked for the same model of a mechanical warrior. Myra also showed interest and took the box with the figurine with a smile, saying that she would take this one. The guy was surprised that the girl showed interest, to which she replied that she liked this one because it moved quickly. Merle awkwardly noted that she always had problems with sports. Garm chose a figurine for herself with a satisfied smile, thereby greatly surprising Merle with the fact that he also wanted such a mechanical warrior for himself. Seeing the new product, customers began to buy an interesting toy. The boy in the cap sadly lowered his head, saying that he would also like one, but he had no money. Yusuke suggested putting one figurine aside since he was a regular customer. After some time, all the warrior figures were sold out. Surprisingly, these toys will be a success, thought the young man standing behind the counter and apologizing to the next client who came for a warrior. A few days later, the sounds of fighting could be heard from the room. In the middle of the room, Minerva had created a special ring of mobile warriors arena. People gathered around, watching the miniature battlefield. The young man is very happy that the new product is selling so well, although only 4 days have passed. Every day 40 boxes are sold out, and in the morning new ones appear. Merle smiled happily at the easy victory in the arena. The girl with a happy smile and zeal asked the young man for ramune, and the guy asked if she had one again, to which the young lady joyfully exclaimed yes, as if this always happens. And she continued that this is all her model with a red shoulder that she obviously painted herself. A system window appeared, decorate the warrior in a unique color. 12 colors are available. The cost of this product in the confectionery is 200 lira. Having received her drink, Merle joyfully exclaimed that it was ramune of victory, taking sips. The guy only thought that the red shoulder was the name of the model as in the original. The girl choked and coughed. When she cleared her throat, she immediately asked the blacksmith how much a battle axe for a warrior cost. to which he replied 2,500 lira, after which she exclaimed how expensive it was, but she would still buy it later when she had money. The latest trend in mobile warfare is close combat with weapons. The blacksmith made miniature weapons for fun and they were a big hit. Sanaga holds a small sword in her hand and says that thanks to Yahagi, they make a lot of money. When a warrior is hit above a certain level, the magical connection is broken. If this happens, it will be a knockout, and the winner will be determined by the warrior losing his magical connection with the person who controls him. Another customer asks about mobile phones, to which the main character replies that they still have some left, and then notices that the customer brought his child with him, who is hiding behind an adult, clearly embarrassed. The customer said he heard it was a great game for practicing magical manipulation. Yusuke noted that it looked like the product was also strengthening its position as an educational toy. The girl had already started choosing a warrior for herself. In the evening, after seeing off the last customer, he counted the proceeds from sales and was pleasantly pleased with the result, and noted that if this is all he needs, he will finally be able to fulfill his cherished desire. After some time, the main character finally rented an apartment for himself, having finished living in a cheap hotel. The owner of the hotel almost cried, asking him not to leave. The young man thought that he would have to visit her sometimes. His new place of residence has a standard layout. The door opened, and Minerva came into the guy holding a paper bag in her hand, saying that she was going to cook stewed vegetables today. The main character mentally mentioned that she comes to visit almost every day, which is a problem for him. The young man also noted that the kitchen had somehow become the adventurer's base. The masked man holds kitchen utensils in his hand and explains that it is a blender. The young man also mentioned that if he had a girlfriend, she would definitely hate him. The adventurer turned around sharply and eagerly and asked if he had a girlfriend. The man in the mask and kitchen apron was slightly trembling, which made the protagonist ask if it was really so offensive to think that he might have a girlfriend, although in fact he didn't have one yet. But if he had a girlfriend in the future, doesn't the adventurer think that she would be jealous if the man in the mask cooked food for him every evening? Minerva indignantly agreed with him and added that such people are nothing but evil. The young man continued and said that this is why, when he gets a girlfriend, he wants the Reaper to take all this kitchen equipment with him. The masked man carefully asked him if he wanted a girl, to which the guy agreed and asked him a question that if he had a girlfriend, then talking about different things and dating would enrich his life, although he was not sure. Besides, he wants to diversify the nights. Minerva clearly blushed under her mask, asking again about the nights in a confident voice so as not to show her slight embarrassment. He asked if the adventurer wasn't interested, to which the Reaper responded honestly and admitted that he was interested. He also specified that he couldn't lead a nightlife with his girlfriend in the constant presence of Minerva. The adventurer humbly accepted his point of view and clarified that the guy wanted to be with his beloved forever, after which he announced that she understood everything and that there would be a celebration tonight. The protagonist noted that he was too happy. This evening, the guy thanked the masked man for the food, to which he asked if he planned to drink today holding a bottle in his hands, to which the young man confirmed that yes, he did indeed have plans to drink a little today. Minerva began pouring alcohol into a glass with ice, to which the guy noted that it looked like high-quality brandy. The girl only told him to drink more. The main character smiled and asked if she was going to get him drunk, to which the girl turned on the block in the form of a smile, after which she asked again if he wanted a girlfriend. The young man, holding a glass in his hand, answered that he had to come home from drinking with friends to his beloved, after which the adventurer asked what kind of girls he liked. But the guy apparently did not understand the question or was already drunk enough to not fully understand what the conversation was about. Minerva asked if he liked women with a curvy figure like Myra, to which the young man answered positively, specifying that she had a good figure, gentle and calming, but he also liked energetic girls like Merle. The man in the mask immediately thought about those girls, but was interrupted as the main character said that those young girls, Merle and Myra, were too young and also noted that he already wanted to sleep. They had lunch, enjoyed alcohol, and had innocent conversations. Isn't it strange, they were like on a date, the guy thought, looking at the empty glass in his hand. Minerva sat next to him and specified that he would like it if the girl was older with a good physique, that if she was the strongest adventurer. The young man, already sleepy, asked about the face and character, and she should be good. The main character fell asleep during the conversation under the influence of fatigue and alcohol. The girl sitting next to him was finally able to calmly take off her mask and not worry about him seeing her true identity. And looking at the main character with a slight smile and a blush on her face, Minerva said that she would be kinder in the future. Her eyes shimmered beautifully in the light of the room when she looked at him sleeping. A few days later, On the mobile arena, fights of mobile models are happening again, attracting new clients and those who just want to watch this interesting performance. Myra approached the main character and said that she has an idea. She hesitantly suggested organizing a mobile warrior tournament among those who wanted to participate, thereby surprising the guy with such an unexpected proposal. Minerva said it was interesting, and Merle had already agreed to participate. The young man thought about it because it looked interesting and moreover it could be profitable, which meant it was worth trying. Myra had already started to support the girl who decided to ask what the prize would be, making the guy think about it, since there didn't seem to be that many options. After thinking for a while, the main character confidently offered a panacea as a reward for winning the tournament, to which everyone agreed and were happy, thinking that this would be a pretty good reward. An aristocrat burst into the establishment asking if he could also participate, to which the young man answered positively and said that anyone with a mobile warrior could participate. The rich man confidently declared that he was just in time because a new portion of medicine was needed, and he said that he would buy all the warriors and asked if the young man would participate, to which he only awkwardly agreed, confirming that he would indeed participate and wondering if he had gone overboard with the reward since such a rich man as this man wanted to teach her. Water in the hot springs. Many people have gathered in the arena again. Merle confidently declares that she will prove that her warrior has the strongest body, to which Minerva says that there are no enemies in the mech camp that can resist her. Myra holds her mechanical warrior in her hands and says that she doesn't want to lose either. The young man checks if all the participants are present and solemnly announces the start of the mobile mech tournament. Everyone was waiting for this moment, a real tournament, to show their mobile warriors in action. The protagonist thought that the participants would be mostly young adventurers, but there were also many veteran adventurers. The prize is, of course, a panacea, but it doesn't seem like it's what the tournament participants need. Warriors are popular among different generations, the young man thought and didn't dwell on it. He noticed that aristocrat and noted that he definitely needed a panacea. The rich man confidently ordered his soldiers to win the tournament with all their might, to which they only confidently agreed to carry out his order. The tournament began as soon as 32 participants had gathered. A crowd of people waiting for the competition to begin gathered around the arena. A young man happily announced the start of the first round, and he announced the first participant, a broken-faced dome fur. People were surprised because it was a student of the academy, a black third-year student. The protagonist noticed that the man did not look like a student but still announced him. The young man then announced the second participant, Minerva and her heavy mech. The masked man menacingly threatened the opponent, promising to smash him and already realizing that she would win this round. And she called him a pathetic student, to which he nervously replied that he did not study at the academy and put his mech in the arena, to which she said that he talks too much. The protagonist announced the start of the round, after which the male warrior rushed forward under the guy's cries of finishing the job, clearly underestimating his opponent. But suddenly, the warrior of Minerva found himself behind the model of the man and analyzed that the magical power had accumulated, but the control was weak, which put him in a losing position. And shouting that the man was a loser, the heavy mech knocked the man's model out with one blow. The man was shocked by his defeat, especially with such a failure from just one blow. The main character congratulated the adventurer on his victory. The people around were surprised, but they expected something like that from the knight. Minerva only clarified that this was only the first round. The mask hiding the wanted witch's face also hid her emotions from prying eyes about how she was very happy about her victory over the enemy, and at the same time did not break the fur. She also remembered that if she was kind, Yusuke would fall in love with her, although she looked rather strange from the outside. The young man thought that he was probably glad that he had won after all. Merle confirmed that this was expected, but she also clarified that she was not going to give up either, declaring that the strongest position belonged to her and that she too was going to win the tournament with just one blow. The girl showed off her customized mech with a battle axe made by Sanaga and wheels for high-speed maneuvering and added armor to the chest and head. Merle happily announced that it was a special new product and its spears were amazing. She smiled slyly at Minerva and warned him to prepare for battle. The adventurer looked at her angrily, realizing that she too was aiming for victory in one blow. The first stage is completed. Also, the main character noted that among the regulars, Garm and Myra showed themselves well, but Regal lost. The boy lowered his head in disappointment from failure. Yusuke said that it was a pity that the boy couldn't win, and he really wanted to buy the model. The boy just said that it was okay, because playing with mechs, he had fun every day. Regal, he smiled happily, holding the mechanical warrior in his hands and saying that he was looking forward to the next tournament, in which he would definitely take part, claiming victory. The main character asked him not to hurry as this tournament was not over yet. He only agreed. From behind someone's back came a cry that someone was also waiting for the next tournament, forcing the guy to turn around. It turned out to be none other than Mo Hessel, who also lost in the first round, but expressed a desire to participate in the next tournament to show his best qualities, even if there was no panacea for the prizes. And he whispered to the main character that he would tell the aristocrats about this place because it was fun here, and also to the king. To which the guy thought that perhaps this was his chance. After a short break, the Mechanical Warrior tournament continued. And so Myra and Garm lost, and Merle, the recent winner, lost in the semi-finals of the Warrior tournament. The finale has arrived. Two warriors entered the mechanical ring of the arena. Minerva's model won the war by delivering one crushing blow, and the young man declared the adventurer's victory. The protagonist congratulated the winner. The masked man only said that it didn't matter much, but mentally she was very happy about her victory over her opponent with just one blow. The protagonist insisted that it was a really cool victory in the Mechanical Warrior tournament. Minerva said nothing, but inside she was happy to hear praise from a young man she clearly liked. Merle said sadly that it was a shame to lose with her equipment. Marie added that the adventurer has more developed magical control. The protagonist gave the panacea to the winner, and he also added that it was exciting and great, and he is thinking about holding another tournament in the near future, and asked everyone who wants to take part in this wonderful event to come again. The clients and the losing participants of the tournament were delighted and have already agreed to come to the next mech tournament, some to have fun, and some with the obvious desire to win next time. After seeing off the last client, the protagonist announced that he was going to throw a party tonight, apparently wanting to celebrate the first tournament dedicated to mechanical warriors. He also expressed a desire to feed the party participants. Merle and Myra were delighted with this offer and asked where they were going. The guy turned around and looked at the adventurer, but saw that the aristocrat was bowing to the man in the mask and asking for something. The rich man tearfully asks the winner to give him the panacea, to which Minerva clarified to cure the disease. To which he confirmed this and clarified that the king is now better, but everything can change, so he needs this medicine for the worst times. The guy called the adventurer. Minerva nervously asked him to wait for her, after which she gave the panacea to the aristocrat, for which he thanked him, but the man in the mask said that he did not need his gratitude. All four of them went somewhere to have a party. The protagonist asked if the winner had decided to sell his prize, to which he replied that he did not need the money. The guy put his hand on the shoulder of the man in black robes and said that today he would be the one to fork out the money, since he had said earlier that he did not need money. Minerva was surprised by this gesture from the young man, clearly not expecting it from him, and thinking that it was because she was kind and she needed to continue in the same spirit. Under the mask, the girl blushed slightly from this thought and such closeness with the main character. The company finally got to the local pub and everyone ordered what they wanted, of course at the expense of the main character, since he had already promised to pay for it all that evening. Having emptied their glasses of freshly poured booze in one gulp, Merle and Myra each asked for another round of drinks, one for another glass of wine, and the other for another round of fresh beer. The young man was slightly surprised that the girls were also drinking and doubted their age. The young lady waitress thanked the guests for waiting, bringing them their orders with a slight smile on her face. The waitress placed the order at their table. Myra noted that this establishment cooked especially delicious fried chicken, and the girls also asked for more beer and wine. Minerva offered the main character a white sweet wine, coming closer and sitting down next to him. But unexpectedly for her, the young man took her glass and asked if he could try it, twirling the glass in his hand. The young man admitted that the wine was very sweet and he would like to take one bottle. Minerva tried to say something, but changed her mind and literally began pouring sweet wine into the boy, telling him to drink. After some time, having left the pub, the company went outside. Yusuke could barely stand on his feet. The adventurer was holding him. Merle asked if the guy was okay, to which he replied so that the girls wouldn't worry. Myra only noted that his appearance made one think differently. Minerva said that she was seeing Yahagi off and sent the girls home, to which Myra said that the guy would be safe with the adventurer, to which Merle doubted it, but still wished them good night, to which the masked man thought that everything had gone as planned. Having offered the young man to stay at her house, she realized that the guy was feeling bad and everything was going according to plan. The main character fell asleep immediately as soon as Minerva brought him to her home and thought that since he was here, he needed to dress in something more comfortable before going to bed. Looking at the young man, the girl thought about how cute he was when he slept while she was changing his top, taking off his shirt and thinking about whether she could take his hand and whether he would wake up if she continued. The next morning, the guy woke up and found himself in Minerva's house and wondered if he came here drunk and noticed that he was not wearing his own clothes, but saw his shirt ironed hanging on a hanger on a rack. The protagonist left the room and headed towards the bathroom, saying that he hoped the adventurer would forgive him if he used the bathroom without his knowledge, while taking off the shirt that the masked man had so carefully put on him the previous evening. The main character sleepily opened the bathroom door, entering a room where steam was billowing from the hot water from the hot springs, making it very difficult to see anything. Through the clouds of steam, the guy noticed that there was someone sitting in the bathroom with long hair and a white body, but he didn't fully understand and could see dimly because of the constant thick steam. The girl turned around at the sound of the door opening and saw Yusuke fixing his gaze on him, after which the young man, seeing that it was still a girl, quickly apologized and hurried out of the bathroom. The young man pressed his back against the wall in complete shock and confusion from what he saw, not yet knowing how to explain it, and uttered words about the discovery, calling for himself a new product from his confectionery with the help of mysterious magic. A system window appeared. Ramen with cola flavor has a calming effect. The main character took out some candies and ate them to come to his senses and calm down a little. The young man immediately thought that he had just seen Minerva's girl in the bath, and immediately began to wonder whether the adventurer would be angry with him for such a situation. He was sitting at the table and thinking about how he saw her without clothes and how he needed to apologize for such an unpleasant situation properly. The door opened, and a slightly embarrassed girl entered the room. Upon seeing her, the young man immediately stood up from his chair and bowed and immediately apologized for the situation, after which he introduced himself, mentioning that he was Minerva's friend. The girl called him by name. He looked at the girl and realized that he had seen her somewhere before. Perhaps it was an adventurer from the dungeon, or he had seen her somewhere in the city. But it finally dawned on him that it was the wanted witch Michelle, after which he asked if she was Minerva's friend. The girl stands nervously in the doorway. The main character says that he has a feeling that they already know each other. A second later, the guy asks what happened, to which she answers that she is Minerva. The girl looked at the guy with tears in her eyes. The main character was in complete shock and wondered if this is what the adventurer looked like without a mask. Yes, he had become his best friend. Minerva was a regular guest in his house, but he could not believe that this was the witch Michelle. The young man was surprised and began to understand that he could have guessed it himself long ago. The girl clarified that it was just a good magical blocking, so he didn't notice anything. Minerva looked at him tearfully and asked if he hated her after such an unpleasant situation and deception on her part. Yusuke ate a handful of cola-flavored sedatives to comprehend her confession, after which he said that this was not so, and invited her to sit down and asked if she wanted to eat. The protagonist asked why she didn't say she was Michelle, to which she replied that she couldn't find a convenient opportunity, but really wanted to. Then he wanted to know why and thought that maybe he already knew the answer. The girl became embarrassed and finally confessed that she was in love with the main character, to which he was silent for a couple of seconds. But in his thoughts, he was very happy because this was the first time someone confessed their love to him. He awkwardly scratched the back of his head and smiled, saying that he was glad, but it was still a problem that she was a wanted criminal in this kingdom, although maybe in others too. Michelle beamed with happiness upon hearing his answer and smiled joyfully, asking if it was true that he was glad to hear it. The young man answered her question positively and noted that she had a very sweet smile. After which the girl, with more determination and happiness, suggested that they be a couple, to which the main character said whether it was too early in their situation and asked her to clarify something. Having asked what happened between her and the king, after which she was declared wanted. Upon hearing the question, the girl's expression instantly changed from joyful to the face as on the announcement of her search. The girl frowned and looked at the protagonist when he asked what happened between her and the king that now she is a wanted witch. Minerva, that was Michelle. They sat at the table, and the girl confidently answered that this information was not of great importance, and mentioned that this was a story that she did not want to remember. The guy looked at her seriously and said that he wanted to get to know her better, to which Michelle, hearing about his desire, looked at him lovingly, saying that she also wanted him to know everything. Having gathered her strength a little, the girl began her story about how, when the proposal of marriage to the king was announced, she was a teacher at the Academy of Magic. The young man was surprised that she was a teacher, to which Minerva explained that she had finished her studies at the age of 18 and had become a teacher at the Academy of Magic. Since childhood, she loved to study and was always immersed in magic, so she believed that it was her calling. At that time, the article she published became very popular. The world quickly proclaimed her a genius. The king was also interested in it. Now that she thinks about it, she assumes that he thought that if he made her his wife, he would receive various magical benefits. The guy thought that her appearance was quite attractive, but her self-esteem was too low. After which the main character decisively and directly asked her if she loved the king, to which Michelle shook her head negatively and unquestioningly and said no. Since childhood, she has only done what she studied, and she has never had a relationship. Since she has a simple and gloomy character, boys treated her meanly, so she took revenge on them with special magic so that over time no one would offend her. And when someone came up and said that the king wanted to marry her, she realized that she had lost herself. The guy nodded and decided to ask how she had taken revenge. Attached another boy to the spire of the tower to hang there, because of which the guy got a little nervous from her description. The protagonist decided to ask in the same way she cast a curse on the king, to which Michelle said that the king was going to break off their engagement and marry Taddy. The young man asked if she was a queen, to which the girl answered positively and said that they had known each other for a long time, but suspiciously looked away as if she was hiding something. And then she continued that on the day when she came to the royal palace, she was next to the king, and the king announced that he was going to marry Taddy and wanted Michelle to know that he was never engaged to her. Taddy, as always, explains the girl was wearing a vulgar dress. She laughed at Michelle and looked down at her, making it clear that she was better than her. The main character clarified that after this unpleasant incident she put a curse on the king, to which Minerva confirmed this and clarified that he had been suffering for 3 years. There is silence for a few seconds. The girl is shaking, so he decided to ask if she is still in pain, to which she answered confidently and said that she no longer cares about the king and that she never loved him. Noticing her tears, he immediately asked why she was crying. He thought that perhaps she regretted what had happened, but she herself did not understand it. But her answer surprised him when she said that she could not curse Taddy. Michelle frowned and with tears in her eyes told about how Titty was lazy, but she had an excellent sense of magic, so she slipped away from her at the last moment when she wanted to cast a curse. Having finished her long and rather upsetting story, she quickly calmed down and with a happy face again asked the main character if he loved her even after hearing this, hoping for a positive answer. To which the guy said that it was unexpected and why don't they start over with friendship? To which Michelle said that they were already friends, making eyes at him, which made him think that she was very cute. The main character said that friendship is a stage before a relationship because she wanted it herself. Michelle, with an enthusiastic smile, clarified that she is a wanted criminal, but he is still ready to go on a date with her. That was the problem, but it was too late. He awkwardly scratched the back of his head and said that it was nice to meet you. The girl blossomed and said that she would continue to be on guard so as not to get caught and would always be with him. The boy thought that he was becoming tougher, being surrounded by adventurers, but not enough. Minerva asks him if he is sure that he will not stay the night with her, to which he replies that he is going back to his apartment. She had to just agree. The main character said that they would see each other later in front of the dungeon, and thought that he was not interested in simple and gloomy women after all. When he left, the girl remembered her purchase and said that she took responsibility for buying it, but she did not need it and threw the purchase in the trash can. The soft handcuffs flew into the trash can and Michelle smiled thinking that they really had started dating, so she didn't need them after all, as she had planned earlier in case of his refusal. The next day, entering the hot springs, Merle looked at the situation unfolding before her in surprise, not knowing what to think or assume about it. A satisfied Minerva in a mask gives the self-prepared bento to the protagonist, to which he, with a smile on his face and a slight blush, thanks the adventurer for his work. After which he says that it has become much warmer lately. The adventurer notes that it gets quite hot here in the summer, to which he says that now some fruit ice would not hurt. The girl watches the couple in bewilderment. Merle suspiciously says that the protagonist and the adventurer have become even closer, to which Mary notes that it is all because of the recent dinner. The girl cautiously assumes that Minerva put his hand on the drunk Yusuke. The girl with the bangs came up to the counter and ate some gum and seaweed in vinegar, to which the guy asked if she was going to the mud monster, to which she confirmed. The gas monster drops at least 10,000 lyre, but they cast a curse of silence. Myra, with a slight smile and a blush on her face, also noticed that the adventurer's chest seemed to have become larger. That's why I use vinegar algae that remove the curse of silence. The girl also said that you can also use powdered juice, but it's difficult to use during combat. Merle said that they will earn money and go to Garia. Myra clarified that this was a mountain me about the fact that this season the Fujira flowers are especially beautiful. Merle said that this is a popular entertainment, and also that the future of this country is in question, but there are trends towards tourism development and smiled mysteriously. The girl with the bangs asked her not to shout about it. The protagonist wondered what was wrong with the future and remembered that the other day Regal was almost attacked in the dungeon and he helped him, but maybe it's true. But the main character also noted that for him as an ordinary candy seller, it does not matter much. Merle says that the mountain is really a beautiful place. The young man thought for a while about the stories about such a new place for him. and said that it was interesting and he was thinking about inviting Minerva there to look at the sakura. The girl blushed slightly, thinking that this was all very suspicious, to which Myra continued to tease her. Evening, Yusuke's apartment. The protagonist and Michelle are having dinner at the table and he asked if she was busy with research, to which she replied that when she says she is busy, that's how it is, and asked why he needs this information. After which he said that he thought that he should also take a break and invited her to go for a walk. For example, to look at the blooming Fujira on Mount Regala, which Myra and Merle told him about some time ago. Michelle froze, staring at him, not knowing what to answer to such an unexpected offer from the main character, and trying to understand if this was really happening to her. The girl dropped her spoon from such unexpectedness from the main character's proposal. Yahagi awkwardly admitted that it was a date, which is why she suddenly grabbed her heart, making him nervous. Michelle said that she was going to die of happiness, to which the young man said that she was simply exaggerating and gave her some soothing candies. The girl ate a few, after which he decided to clarify whether she would go with him, to which she happily agreed. The next day, the couple was about to go to Mount Regala. The protagonist, as a gentleman, extended his hand to help her into the carriage. The guy thought that she had not been invited on a date, but he didn't care because they were dating. Sitting in the carriage, Michelle took out chocolate candies in the form of cigarettes and offered them to the young man, to which he took one from the package. The peculiarity of the candies is that if you hold them in your mouth, you can mentally communicate with people within a radius of 10 meters. Minerva mentally apologized to the guy and mentioned that she would like to go on a date in different clothes, to which he replied that everything was fine and nothing could be done because she was wanted and he would keep her secret. After which he mentally suggested that they first go to a restaurant and get some food that he had ordered in advance especially for this occasion. After which, he told the coachman to bring them to the restaurant. The masked girl mentally wondered if it would be better for her to prepare a bento, to which the young man replied that next time. The coachman brought the couple to a famous restaurant. The main character picked up an order from the restaurant that he had made in advance, which was well packed in a nice and pretty good box. Michelle noticed how cute the packaging was. She mentally noted that next time they should take home-cooked food, to which Yusuke replied that he would wait. The coachman noticed the guy's cigarette and offered him matches so that he could light up. The couple looked at each other, realizing that he thought they were real cigarettes, after which the young man apologized and said that they were just sweet chocolates, not real cigarettes. Both thought that the coachman was unlucky. The man did not understand but continued to drive the carriage. The main character thought that he was leaving the city for the first time. The carriage leaves the city. After some time, the coachman announced that they would soon arrive. After leaving the carriage, Yahagi and Minerva headed towards the mountain and noticed that there were a lot of people there, so nothing could be seen from here. He also noticed that it was a zom, not a mountain, and seemed very small. The young man suggested that they climb higher, to which the girl agreed. The couple began to climb higher and higher on Mount Regala, overcoming not so steep ledges, and did not stop. After some time, having climbed to the highest point of the mountain, the couple had a wonderful view from above of endless pink flowering fields, among which houses were visible that looked very small. The main character and Michelle, looking into the distance, were stunned by how beautiful it was here and noticed that the fields looked like pink clouds that glowed. The beauty of this place really cannot be described in words. Michelle agreed with the guy and told him a legend that says that you can live happily ever after until the next Fujir blossoms, if lovers kiss under its flowers. Turning away, the girl said that she was sorry that she could not take off the mask. The guy thought that he was not a magician, but the mysterious confectionery allows you to take any goods from the store at any time. A deck of cards appeared in his hands that could summon mysterious smoke, which was very effective when used as a smoke screen when escaping from battle. He brought his fingertips to the card and summoned the smoke. Minerva was surprised to notice the mysterious smoke screen that had formed around her and turned around to look at the young man who was still rubbing his fingertips. The main character smiled and asked how she liked the magic of the confectionery. Without waiting for an answer, the main character, confident that no one would see them in the smoke, asked Michelle to take off her mask, to which she hesitantly began to remove the mask from her face. Taking off her mask, the girl looked at the guy with embarrassment, saying that she had big lips and that she didn't like her face, to which Yusuke only smiled and said that her lips were as beautiful as she was. The girl hesitantly extended her hand to his face and, lifting her face, gave in to him, responding to his gentle kiss under the blooming Fujira flowers, not worrying that someone might see them among the thick smoke screen. Returning to the pastry shop, the couple was met by Merle, who asked the couple if they had gone to the mountain together, to which the guy only said that they had simply become one step ahead. She only sarcastically agreed, to which the guy asked what he said wrong. Merle pointed at Minerva and said that after returning from the mountain, he began to behave even stranger. The adventurer giggles slightly under the mask, creating an eerie atmosphere scaring people. Michelle quietly said that he would no longer be able to escape, which made the guy feel uncomfortable, and he hoped that she was talking about monsters and not about him, since in this form she looked like a possessed person in a mask. Merle happily exclaimed that they were dating, then asked for vinegar seaweed and began to eat. Myra stood behind her and teased the girl that if she ate seaweed she would not grow. At the same time, in the king's castle, a nobleman watches as mobile warriors fight in the arena like little puppets controlled by the magical control of the king and one of the court soldiers. The king sits on the throne with the queen, who says that he cannot leave the castle yet, to which he says that he understands and continues to watch the warriors fight. The small model belonging to the king swung his sword and struck the warrior with one blow, who fell with a thud onto the arena without any resistance or signs that the competition could continue. Seeing this, the king smiled at his victory, the soldier bowed, and said that as expected from his majesty. The queen smiled, saying that his majesty's skills are improving every day. The girl flatteringly confessed her indecent thoughts towards his majesty without embarrassment in front of those present in the room and smiled slyly, already thinking about something. The king happily said that she was a wonderful queen. Essel awkwardly began to say that if her health improved, the government relations staff would too, but he did not have time to finish because the king did not let him continue. And he said that he should explain to everyone that their majesty was tired, smiling with contempt and looking at the aristocrat. The queen also looked at the aristocrat with contempt and not having any respect for him, after which the king and queen disappeared from sight on their bed, closing themselves off from him, to which Mr. Essel asked for forgiveness for his words and retreated. He thought that if the king gets better, he will think about the future of the kingdom, but his majesty must leave the throne. The shadow of the strange fills the territory of the ruined castle. The carriage passes a field with a fence where sheep are grazing. The protagonist and the adventurer look out to sea. Minerva asks if he has seen anything like this before. The carriage pulls up to the huge gates belonging to Grantham, the territory of Baron Essel. Yahagi was invited by an aristocrat, Mr. Essel, after which he and Minerva went to his mansion without much delay, since there was no suspicion of any malice on his part. The couple were smoking chocolate cigarettes again. The girl remarked that Grantham was a large, remote area, but a rather rich place in the area, to which the guy remarked that Mr. Essel was indeed a rich man. And also the man in the mask noted that they cook lamb here, to which the young man expressed a desire to try it, and if you think about it, then in his past life he ate a lot of lamb kebabs. The carriage stopped and he immediately wondered if they had arrived at the mansion. As they exited the carriage, the couple saw a huge, majestic mansion in front of them, which made the couple marvel at the beauty and truly majestic architecture of the building. Entering inside, they were met by Essel himself, who asked how their trip had gone. The couple sat down on a soft sofa, after which the protagonist thanked the aristocrat for providing the carriage, saying that thanks to him, they had arrived safely. Their journey took 2 days in a horse-drawn carriage. The boy's lower back hurts a lot, but the adventurer's healing magic saved the situation. The mansion's maid brought freshly brewed tea with a slight smile. The young man asked Essel if he would be okay with them opening a Yahagi confectionery at the festival here in Grantham, to which the aristocrat agreed and expressed his desire to see the mobile warriors on sale. Also added that he had already secured a place for them in the square and said that the festival would start tomorrow, but he would like to see it now. To which the guy happily said that he was ready. Mr. Essel also added that once they left, he would show them the hotel they would be staying in. Minerva, hearing his proposal, immediately thought of spending the night with Yusuke. The hotel where the main character and the adventurer arrived looked majestic and very rich with its several floors, and carved architectural elements emphasizing its grandeur on this sunny day. The boy was surprised and remarked that the hotel was great and that if he had paid out of his own pocket, he would never have been able to stay there overnight. The hotel workers noticed Yahagi and said that they had heard his story and asked him to follow them. The hotel worker led the couple to a luxurious, richly decorated hotel room that looked immaculate. High ceilings, 2 high-end double beds and windows directly above the beds. Seeing this, the guy immediately noticed that the room was nice. It was very different from the Bodakuro. The worker suggested that Yusuke and the adventurer take their time and have a good rest. But then the guy exclaimed, attracting the attention of the worker. He, a little stunned by this awkward situation, clarified that this was only one room and where the room for Minerva personally was, clearly not expecting that such a situation could happen at all. The worker replied that he had heard that they were close with their friend, so it wouldn't be a problem for them, and explained that there were no extra seats during the festival, after which he left, asking for forgiveness. The protagonist immediately thought that it was a problem. The young man said that he would see if there was a free living room somewhere and said that this room would be hers and he would find something else for himself. The girl took off her mask with shaking hands, reminding him that he had already stayed in her room many times, to which the young man reminded her that at that time he did not know that she was actually a girl, to which she asked where the problem was if they were to be together again. Michelle also reminded him that there were no more places available tonight because of tomorrow's festival, to which he recalled the words of the worker who had spoken about this earlier. In the end, the main character had to agree, but he promised the girl not to do anything strange. Minerva blushed slightly and nodded, clearly happy that he finally agreed. Michelle blushed slightly, starting to say that it was okay if, but before she finished, the main character changed the subject, suggesting that they leave their bags and go open a store in the square and get down to business, thinking that he had to be good. The main square of the Campolin Festival, where stalls for tomorrow's event are already set up. People are walking around the square, each doing their own thing. The young man and Mitchell came to the square, noting that although the festival would start tomorrow, there were still a lot of people compared to the deserted city square. Approaching one place, the guy immediately realized that this was the place that was prepared for the Yahagi store. He also noticed that Mr. Essel had set up an arena for mechanical warriors in advance. Using the magic of his pastry shop, he set up a special kiosk in the prepared place and noticed that it looked great there. It didn't take long before the first buyers became interested in the product. The kids immediately started looking at the assortment, saying that they had never seen anything like it before. Inspired, the main character began to call customers to look at the assortment and mention that the confectionery is very popular in the capital. But in truth, it is not very popular, but often traders exaggerate their advertising offers. Hessel's request, the protagonist asked Minerva, as the champion of the tour, to show the buyers a first-class performance of mechanical warriors in the arena, to which she agreed. Having placed the first warrior in the arena and controlling it, Michelle immediately attracted the attention of the local children who were surprised and did not understand how the doll could move on its own, but were still very interested in it. Yusuke took the box with the warrior and explained to the children that this toy is very popular in the capital and is called a mobile warrior, and also explained that it moves with the help of magic. He noted that 30 lyre is too much for a child. But then, the grandfather of one of the children came up to buy a toy. Seeing this, the other children ran away to call their parents to buy them warriors. The young man also promised that the city champion Minerva would teach them how to play. The guy asked her if she wanted to teach at the magic university like she used to which she agreed without much delay. By the end of the day, all the mechanical warriors were sold out, and he noted that all this was thanks to Minerva, although remembering that she defeated all the warriors that the children bought and thereby brought them to tears. He realized that she did not understand children very well. After finishing work in the store at the festival, the couple went to rest. The main character said that it was too early for horror, so he suggested returning to the hotel, to which she agreed. Returning to the hotel room, Yusuke immediately lay down on the bed with a slight smile on his face, saying that he was very tired today and offering Michelle to take off her coat too. The girl took off her mask and agreed to his offer. She said that she was thinking about changing into something comfortable, so she asked the young man to close his eyes for a moment, to which he immediately covered his eyes with his hands, admitting to himself that he was tempted to look at her clothes, but he would not give in to temptation. After some time, the girl asked him if he was ready, to which he answered positively and was shocked by what he saw when he opened his eyes. Michelle stood in front of him in a very beautiful sleeveless dress with a cutout on the chest. She shyly asked if he liked it and admitted that she wanted to show this dress as soon as she saw it. The protagonist blushed slightly, stunned by how beautiful she looked in that long dress and the charming necklace on her neck that emphasized her slightly rounded features. He immediately admitted that the dress was very beautiful and suited her very well. Michelle smiled slightly, embarrassed by the guy's compliment, and asked if he was being honest, clarifying that she could check if he was lying with a magic circle, to which he said that he was telling the truth. And also, so that the girl wouldn't have to change her clothes in vain, the main character decided to order service for them directly to their hotel room. The next morning, the young man woke up cheerful, well-rested with a smile on his face, and rising from the pillow, turned his head towards Minerva's bed and asked the girl how she slept. But she didn't look like she had slept well, her eyes were gloomy, and there were small bags under her eyes from a bad night without sleep. Michelle said that she couldn't fall asleep, while he seemed to be sleeping like a log. They were in the same room, which worried her, and he just went and fell asleep. The guy chuckled and said that it was part of his character so he could fall asleep quickly. Minerva frowned and picked up the dress, saying that she would wear it again. The young man was surprised, after which he imagined the girl again in this dress with a deep neckline. But after eating some soothing candies, he said that now he was calm and he had a job, so he could not deprive himself of sleep. Having finished their business, the couple went to the square on the day of the festival and, making their way through the large crowd, were surprised that there were many more people compared to the day before. Having opened his candy store in the square again, a line immediately formed. The guy assumed that it was because of the well-selling mobile warriors and realized that today he would have a lot of work. Taking out a new batch of mechanical warriors, the young man heard the joyful cries of the local townspeople about some kind of victory and turned around, interested in what was happening. He decided to find out what was going on and approached one of the townspeople, asking what kind of victory this was, to which he said that they had defeated the enemy army on the border. The protagonist remembered that the Batakuro's mistress had told him about the war, and the man continued by telling that General Bartos had already left the border and was returning to the capital in triumph and was due to arrive in Grantham tomorrow. To which the young man wondered if it was for the festival's sake and also noted that it was good when two holidays coincided on the same day. Cigarette again, he decided to ask Michelle who this man General Bartos was, to which she replied that he was the younger brother of the current king and a much better person, although she did not like him. He asked her why she didn't like him, to which the masked girl replied that he was an indecent womanizer, surrounded by lieutenants. To which the protagonist thought that he was even slightly jealous of his harem, after which he returned to selling mobile warriors. So 2 days passed. The last day of the festival came. The protagonist's mobile warriors are sold out every day, and today there are not many of them left, only 3 boxes. Noticing a shadow on the remaining boxes, he thought it was going to rain, but when he looked up, he saw a tall, stately man who was looking at him menacingly. The young man was surprised at how huge he was, but a little nervously greeted him. There were 2 pretty girls standing next to the man. One looked like an ordinary girl with a high education and intelligence, and the second looked more like an elf because of her elongated ears. Yusuke immediately noticed the girl's elongated ears and immediately began to wonder if she was an elf, and if they really existed, but as soon as he saw the client's frowning look, he immediately began to get even more nervous. But then the buyer's expression suddenly changed to a very friendly one, after which he greeted the young man with his loud voice and asked if warriors were sold here, which somehow confirmed his question. Having chosen one of the 3 boxes, the man chose 1 warrior for himself, to which the main character said that it was a pretty good choice, although there was not much else to choose from. He also offered to buy him a miniature weapon for the warrior, handmade by the skilled blacksmith Sanaga. The choice of weapons was large, from a regular 2-handed sword to a beautifully curved saber with a clearly carved handle. After much thought, General Bartos decided to ask his companions for advice. The girl with elven ears said that she liked the spear more, and the girl named Lana preferred the whip, just like on the cover of the model box. After some time choosing the right weapon, the formidable man finally chose a single-bladed sword with a skillfully made hilt. The protagonist also decided to offer him armor and a shield, to which he replied that he did not need it, he would hold the sword with both hands. Having taken the selected goods, the general immediately went to collect them, the elf went with him to help, and Lana with a smart look said that she would pay for this goods. The main character politely thanked them for the purchase. To control it without any particular problems, practicing to twirl the sword, after which the mechanical model took a victorious pose, holding the sword in front of itself. Bartos watched with interest as his mechanical warrior spun around swinging his sword in the arena. Yusuke, seeing this, immediately wondered if this was the first time he controlled a warrior model, also noticing that his warrior looked like the warrior Michelle. The man asked the young man if it was true that the champion of the mechanical tournament could teach him how to fight, to which the young man decided to ask if Minerva would agree to show him a master class, to which she calmly agreed. The adventurer and General Bartos placed their mechanical warriors in a specialized arena, already preparing for the upcoming training, clearly not with the goal of learning, but to see each other's fighting technique. The man smiled confidently and asked the man in the mask if they could hold an official tournament, to which Minerva calmly replied that they could at any time. Many people gathered around the arena to watch this performance. The protagonist noticed that the adventurer was much more tense than usual. The mechanical warriors took up fighting stances and rushed forward. The first strong blow of the sword hit Minerva's warrior, but she did not lose her head, blocking the blow and fighting back. For a while the warriors stood with their weapons crossed. But then, unexpectedly for everyone, the mechanical model of the man forcefully pushed the weapon of the warrior adventurer, causing him to stagger back. The warrior's sword continued to press down on the adventurer's model with increasing force, after which the model retreated and jumped back. Swinging and with greater confidence, Minerva's warrior delivered a stronger blow at a distance with his knightly weapon, to which the other warrior was almost able to parry the blow. But unexpectedly, the general's warrior who had taken the previous attack suddenly fell as if the magical control over him had disappeared. In the arena stood the warrior who remained on his feet in front of the fallen model of the defeated one. Children and adults joyfully exclaimed about the adventurer's victory. Bortos, with a smile on his face, said about his defeat, to which Minerva said nothing. Despite the defeat, the formidable man smiled happily and said that it was a good experience, and he would try to participate in the tournament again someday. Turning around, he waved his hand and said goodbye, thanking everyone for this fun. The elf only looked back with a slight smile, and walking next to the man, Lana bowed in gratitude in farewell with a serious face. The main character, having seen the general off, thanked the adventurer Minerva for her work and also noted that this was a unique client for today, to which the girl remained silent and took out chocolate cigarettes to tell him something. The masked man slid a chocolate cigarette under his mask and mentally informed Yusuke that it was none other than the current king's younger brother, General Bardos, to which the young man was very surprised and remembered that he wanted to come again and hoped that Michelle would cope with this. A little later, Mr. Essel thanks General Bardos for his backbreaking work. The menacing man sits on the couch with his companions, Lana and the girl with elf ears, talking about how he looked into that pastry shop, after which Essel asked how he was. The heroes approached a building with a sign at the entrance indicating that these were hot springs. This place was apparently a popular vacation spot. Not far from the springs, they stopped in front of a signboard announcing that Yahagi's sweet shop was temporarily closed. This news left them slightly disappointed. One of the locals explained that the shop owner had gone to visit a wealthy man and would only return in a few days. The girls were upset, as they had expected to find sweets. Along the way, they began to remember the name of the place where the man had gone, and one of them said the name Grantham. The name seemed familiar to them. The girls animatedly discussed the local food, recalling that this city serves lamb, which goes well with both beer and wine, making them hungry and happy. They briefly felt sad, remembering how they missed Yahagi's favorite sweets, which they seemed to have gotten used to during their vacation. Suddenly, one of them called her friend over with joyful surprise, noticing something interesting that immediately caught her attention and caused her delight. They saw several types of swimsuits on display. The sight of this unexpected assortment made them wonder if summer had already arrived. A vivid image of a summer vacation immediately appeared in one of the girls' minds. She imagined herself in a revealing swimsuit, enjoying the warmth in another world, while in reality she looked noticeably less confident. The girl, holding the swimsuit in her hands, did not understand why her friend suddenly reacted sharply, because, in her opinion, the choice was quite appropriate and convenient. The friend was afraid that such an outfit could attract too much attention and create unnecessary problems, because the swimsuit turned out to be too revealing. When a friend started joking about who exactly they wanted to impress in such a look, one of the girls became embarrassed and hastened to refute such guesses. The girl, despite her worries, looked noticeably more cheerful than usual while she was looking at another swimsuit, more restrained and to her liking. However, their attention was immediately drawn to the price tag, and judging by their reaction, the cost of the swimsuit turned out to be higher than expected, which made them think about spending. One of them noted that even after successfully opening the candy store, they would still have to return to work soon, since the money they had saved was almost completely gone and they could not wait any longer. The heroines had to economize, and they realized that they couldn't afford everything, especially if they wanted to stay in a good hotel in Grantham. They were unexpectedly lucky. One of their old acquaintances returned home with a heavy bag full of shiny coins that he had earned during a big and noisy festival, which was a pleasant surprise for everyone. He happily shared the success, saying that the festival sales had raised a decent amount of money, which inspired everyone. The girl sitting in the room next to him was sincerely happy for him, especially after learning that in addition to the main product, other popular items were also selling well. The hero noticed the old, worn-out sneakers he had left over from his previous life, and decided it was time to find himself a new pair of shoes. His companion unexpectedly offered to buy something for him, which caused him slight surprise, because he did not expect such attention to himself. The girl reminded that almost 30 days had passed since the beginning of their relationship, and the guy awkwardly admitted that he was bad at remembering dates, which upset her a little. The next morning came, and the heroes found themselves at a building that was the Baron's estate, where they had arrived on certain business. The guy expressed gratitude for the conditions provided, noting that thanks to the support they were able to work well over the past 3 days. Baron responded by saying that he was simply glad to see how the idea of mobile warriors was gradually gaining popularity and generating more and more interest. The guy said that he had a topic for discussion, and leaning closer to the Baron, began to quietly share his thoughts about further plans. The Baron enthusiastically proposed the idea of opening a store in the most attractive area of the capital, which greatly surprised his interlocutor. The guy imagined how his simple old stall would look among the new capital buildings, and this caused him some confusion. He explained that his shop was a simple candy store aimed at friends and locals, and that opening a large establishment seemed too difficult a task. The Baron noted that some goods cost much more than they are asking for, and assured that even with the price increase, they will be in demand. The young man, not agreeing with the argument about profit, explained that the point was different. He could run the store only because there were those who needed it. Having heard the answer, the Baron, with a slight smile, acknowledged his haste and suggested forgetting about his previous proposal, considering it unsuccessful. At this very moment, another hero unexpectedly made a request, which immediately aroused genuine interest in the young man, who, having perked up a little, politely inquired what exactly the conversation would be about. The Baron asked to start selling mobile warrior toys in his domain, as he wanted to make them more popular among the locals. The guy admitted that the proposed idea really sounds very tempting, but he can't just leave the hot springs and his regular customers who have loved him for a long time. The Baron immediately offered to take on all issues related to delivery and subsequent sales, promising that he would not take any payment or reward for this. The guy was happy with the support and expressed gratitude, promising to deliver 30 boxes a day, which satisfied both parties. The Baron suggested that at this rate they would be able to organize a whole tournament, and the young man clarified whether it would concern mobile warriors specifically. When the conversation turned to holding a large-scale competition in the capital, those gathered responded favorably to the initiative and expressed their consent. The heroes finished the conversation with the confidence that the main thing is to bring joy to people. They said goodbye, promising to meet again in the capital to implement their joint plans. A week later, a large shipment of boxes with mobile warriors arrived in the capital. This event marked the beginning of the expansion of sales and preparations for the upcoming competitions. The guy delivered a new batch of goods and handed over the proceeds from the sales, asking to convey his regards to the Baron. He looked tired but was pleased with the result of his work. The guy returned to the capital from Grantham and, feeling the heat, was surprised that summer had arrived here so quickly, noticeably different from the previous place. He went to the dungeon, the entrance to which he knew well, since he had been there many times on business related to springs and trade. Using the map, he confidently moved forward, because he knew the route so well that he could get to the right place without outside help. He didn't care about the weather outside, because the temperature inside the dungeon remained constant, which made it comfortable for any task. Upon arrival, he made his way to the springs, where he intended to continue working and replenish his store's stock with new goods. Thanks to the success at the festival, the sweet shop has a new product sorbet, which helps to cope with the heat and has additional effects. The boy looked at the refrigerator, wondering how in this world ice appeared at the bottom of the device. Magic made storing and producing food much easier. The guy looked at the sign with the new symbol with interest, believing that its design had a special charm that could attract the attention of buyers. The girls ran enthusiastically to the candy shop, happily noticing that new treats had appeared, and greeted the seller in a good mood. He announced that sorbet was now on sale, and upon learning that these were regular customers, he promised to treat them to this cooling delicacy. Ice began to slowly fall from the machine into the container below, turning into small crystals ready to be transformed into a refreshing dessert. One of the girls asked if the sorbet was ready yet, but the guy explained that one more ingredient needed to be added before serving it. He politely offered to choose a syrup and named several available flavors: melon, strawberry, and lemon. The girls chose each of their options with interest according to the taste. The finished desserts looked delicious and fresh. The girls admired the look of the sorbet, anticipating how pleasant it would be to try it. One of them began to try the dessert through a straw, not hiding her interest in its taste and texture, preparing for cooling down in the heat. After the first refreshing sip, both girls almost simultaneously expressed their admiration. The sorbet turned out to be surprisingly tasty, crispy, and ideal for the hot summer weather. The guy added that this delicacy not only tastes good, but also helps to cope with the heat, having a high-temperature resistance effect. The girls were happy that they could now go to the lava zone on the 3rd floor of the dungeon to fight the fire mice creatures covered in flames that brought in good income. The guy showed a new ingredient: condensed milk, explaining that it is milk boiled with sugar, which gives the sorbet a rich taste. The girl tried the dessert with the additive and was delighted, saying that with this taste it became her favorite, because it became even better and richer. Thanking for the treat, they enthusiastically decided to go fight the fire mice to earn money for new swimsuits for the start of the season. The guy, left alone, thought about the swimming pools in the capital, looking at his portion of sorbet and wondering where he could cool off in the summer. The girl said that in the north of the city, there is a river from which water is directed to the city in the summer to create a temporary pool for everyone who wants to use it. Soon they smiled and invited Yusuke to join them in the pool to express their gratitude for his help and to have a nice, fun time together. The girl jokingly hinted that he would be surprised when he saw her in a swimsuit and struck a pose, trying to impress. At that moment, a mysterious voice caught my attention, calling me to stop watching the little things and pay attention to something more important. Minerva returned, but said that she was not ready to discuss serious topics in the middle of the day, although she expressed gratitude for the warm welcome. The girls felt embarrassed when Yusuke explained to Minerva that they were going to the fire mice, as they had previously discussed going to the pool, and now confusion arose due to a misunderstanding. Minerva suddenly declined to participate, stating that she would most likely not be able to go with the others, which surprised the girls, who had not expected such an answer. While the others were discussing the new sweets, Yusuke explained that his shop was always busy, and besides, he couldn't just go to the pool with other girls anymore. A sorbet that was on sale, and despite her embarrassment, she expressed her willingness to eat it, while being nervous about the thought of an indirect kiss. After the first try, Minerva suddenly complained of a headache, and someone rushed to offer her warm water to ease the condition and avoid unpleasant consequences. On the third floor of the dungeon, in the area with lava, a battle with fire mice began, which they managed to defeat, and the result of this battle was the loss of a reward in the form of coins. Having received 1,000 lyre, one of the girls enthusiastically declared that the strawberry sorbet was especially tasty, and the money she earned pleasantly complemented the impression. Despite the unbearable heat and stuffiness, thanks to the effect of the sorbet, the participants of the hike felt better, because it helped to cope with thirst and maintain strength. After a short break, one of the girls enthusiastically urged Myra to continue on and move on to the next stage of exploring the dungeon. Myra felt sad and suspected that Yusuke's mood was related to her offer to go to the pool together, but received a comforting answer from him. Myra expressed mild surprise that another person had been invited to join the hike. She admitted that she had expected to spend time alone in a more relaxed atmosphere. Despite the fact that Myra tried to emphasize her attractiveness, the character's inner thoughts suggested that her efforts did not produce the expected effect. A feeling of unrequited feelings arose. One of the girls suddenly came to an unexpected conclusion, deciding that Yusuke might not be interested in relationships with girls. This was a real shock for her and caused bewilderment. Thinking back to their recent behavior, she thought that Yusuke and Minerva seemed especially in tune, as if they had formed a strong bond without words. As a result, she decided that external data did not play a key role, and with sweet determination she accepted this, calming down in her own way. Meanwhile, a new threat appeared in the dungeon area in the form of a creature surrounded by heat, and the team prepared for the next fight, maintaining a serious attitude. The heroine was sure that the new treat gave them strength and confidence for further trials. She was delighted at the opportunity of a new purchase and enthusiastically continued on her way, determined to succeed. Her friends supported her, confirming her determination to continue. With a bright mood and a sense of power, the heroine entered a new test. Before her appeared creatures that had previously caused fear, but now were perceived more calmly. She felt lightness and even joy, full of determination to cope with the task. However, something unexpected soon happened. One of the creatures they encountered surprised the heroine. She did not expect such a turn of events and immediately became wary, realizing that the situation could change at any moment. The appearance of a new participant who suddenly intervened in what was happening surprised the heroine. This person showed confidence, and his appearance clearly influenced the course of events. The heroine realized that the situation had changed, and now she had to act taking into account the new circumstances. One of the group members nodded with a slight grin, agreeing with the remark, which surprised those around him, causing them slight confusion. He enthusiastically demonstrated a gesture of approval, happily emphasizing that he preferred the dessert with the addition of sweet condensed milk. The girl, who was at the edge of the cliff, tried to claim the prey, expressing dissatisfaction with the fact that others were laying claim to the same opponents. The landscape was marked by bright rays of sunshine, and the narrative marked the onset of the summer season with its characteristic atmosphere. The two girls, dressed in light summer clothes, were happy to find suitable outfits for relaxing in hot weather, especially near a body of water. One of them, embarrassed by the attention from men, remembered how her friend's appearance attracts glances even when she wears modest clothes. The thought that everything that was happening was possible thanks to Yusuke's efforts gave the girl a calm satisfaction and inner confidence. One of the friends shared that she wanted to go for a little swim, but apparently changed her mind, probably because of the situation, and the other quickly caught on to her mood. A friend, noticing something interesting and unusual in the distance, quickly called out to Myra by name and gestured with her hand so that she would pay attention in the right direction. She enthusiastically suggested going for a ride immediately, noticing a water slide off to the side, and Myra hastily asked to wait a little. The girl, with a tense expression on her face, admitted that she had an uneasy feeling that something unpleasant would happen if she dared to act. Her friend, not paying much attention to her doubts, suddenly and sharply pushed her forward, persistently urging her not to hesitate and finally decide to take a step. Meanwhile, the sun was shining over Michelle's house, and the rays were breaking through the clouds, creating a feeling of summer heat and silence. On the table in the cozy house were refreshing dishes, cold pasta and vegetable roll, which were ideal for the hot, sultry summer weather. At the table, Yusuke and the girl calmly enjoyed the delicious food, noting to themselves how especially delicious cold dishes are in the midst of the hot summer season. He immediately noticed that she looked a little thoughtful and carefully asked what exactly was bothering her, catching a hidden inner turmoil in her gaze. She couldn't immediately find the necessary determination to speak, hesitating a little and admitting that she was not yet able to make a final and confident decision. Yusuke tried to delicately support her, gently and kindly suggesting that if she really wanted to show something, then she shouldn't be shy and hold back. He began to consider the possibility that her vibrations were related to something unusual, perhaps an object from the dungeon, because there were some scary things in this world. Then he turned around, his face expressing surprise when the girl finally appeared before him, dressed differently than he was used to seeing her. The girl appeared before Yusuke in an outfit that she had prepared herself and smiled reservedly, trying to look calm, although her appearance surprised her interlocutor. She cautiously suggested that he had refused to go to the pool because of her, and expressed gratitude, trying to explain why she had decided to take such a step. Yusuke did not delve into the meaning of her words, noting to himself that the logic was not clear to him, but at the same time expressed approval of her appearance, saying that it suited her. He then asked her when she had acquired the outfit, and was surprised to learn that she had sewn it herself just a week ago. The girl explained that due to the impossibility of going to the pool together, she decided to make another set, intended especially for Yusuke. At first, he didn't understand what she was talking about, but her confidence made him wonder if she was talking about bathing shorts. The confirmation was her gesture when she proudly showed Yusuke her neatly sewn dark-colored swimming trunks. He noted with slight relief that they were indeed bathing shorts, exactly matching the color of her outfit. She admitted that she felt awkward being alone like that, and so she wanted Yusuke to change his clothes too so that she would be more comfortable. He agreed without objection, and soon she kindly offered to fill the bath, which could easily replace the pool, which Yusuke was slightly surprised by but did not object. The store sold water balloons, which were not previously in demand among adventurers and therefore remained unclaimed for a long time. Yusuke and Michelle decided to fill balloons with water and use them to play in the bath, deciding to have fun without embarrassment and with genuine enthusiasm. Meanwhile, the other girls went to the water slide, where one of them went down with a joyful cry, while the other did it more reservedly but with interest. The girls stood in front of the stalls and discussed how amazing the mechanism by which Yusuke's backpack disappeared was, with one of them excitedly saying that it was truly impressive. One of them continued to admire what she saw, noting that the magic that Yusuke possessed allowed him to open and close things without much effort, and also made everyday activities easier. Yusuke watched their reactions with a slight smile, and seemed to feel satisfied that he was able to demonstrate the usefulness of his store without putting in any extra effort. He then noticed a new message in his menu, which told him that new features had been added, including the ability to sell items to other people. He studied the interface intently, trying to figure out how to start using the new feature and how best to put it into practice. A confirmation window appeared on the screen, displaying the item selected for sale, and Yusuke carefully checked the information to avoid making a mistake. After completing all the preparations, he confirmed the transaction, hoping that a buyer would be found quickly and the system would work as described in the instructions. The hero suddenly felt as if time had slowed down, and at that moment it seemed to him that he had mastered a special vision that allowed him to see everything around him with new clarity and concentration. The girl in uniform greeted Yahagi cheerfully and respectfully, showing friendliness and joy at the meeting, to which he responded with a short greeting in return. She was encouraged to notice that her interlocutor seemed full of energy, and expressed hope that her positive mood was noticed by those around her. The girl enthusiastically demonstrated her new ability to control fire magic, causing surprise among those who watched. She explained that this result was possible thanks to training with a mobile warrior, which helped improve her concentration and control over magical flows. According to those around her, her skills had improved noticeably, and her training with Michelle had also played a role in this development, which contributed to the acceleration of the growth of their store's level. A few days later, the hero and his companion again found themselves at the familiar door and tried to open it, preparing for the next event. In front of them appeared a building, with a sign indicating that inside there was a store created under the name of the main character. Both were deeply taken aback by the size and appearance of the store, completely not expecting that their strength and efforts would lead to such an impressive scale. The hero suggested that such a drastic change could be due to an increase in level, and his companion admitted in surprise that even given her expectations, this development seemed excessive. The girl was surprised to notice that the store building seemed to have grown right out of the dungeon wall, and she could not understand how this was even possible, because even experienced people thought that this could not be explained. Hearing the call to hurry, she immediately agreed, showing her readiness to go inside, following her companion without unnecessary hesitation. Looking around, they noted that although the store seemed narrow from the outside, inside it was quite spacious and filled with many shelves. The girl felt like the setting was reminiscent of the past, while the boy noted that the atmosphere reminded him of his childhood. He asked the guest to take off her shoes upon entering the residential part of the store, explaining that this was the custom in his house, and she silently agreed. When inspecting the premises, he was surprised to note the presence of a kitchen, bathroom, and toilet, emphasizing that although the space was small, it was quite possible to live there. After examining the stairs, he quietly spoke about the second floor, intrigued by what could be up there in such an unusual place. Together with the girl, he thought that perhaps the second floor was stuck somewhere in the ceiling of the dungeon, and both of them, with slight excitement, decided to check it out for themselves. He peered around the corner cautiously, as if he wasn't entirely sure what exactly they were about to see up there in the near future. Inside, they found traditional rooms, one with 8 tatami mats and the other with 6, and the guy suggested looking out the window, which piqued their interest. Yusuke, looking out the window, realized that the surrounding landscape violated the usual laws of physics, and came to the conclusion that the store did not seem to obey the known rules of nature. When he examined the room, he found neatly folded blankets and pillows in the closet, which made him think that he could actually settle in and live there. Then his attention was drawn to a single futon with 2 pillows, which caused him confusion, especially considering the girl's happy and calm expression. Suddenly, other acquaintances looked into the room, and Yusuke, hearing their approach, hastened to apologize for the unexpected situation, causing slight surprise among the guests. When the guests entered, he greeted them and noted that the place was now a real store, and their visit seemed to him to be very timely. He then officially announced that this new establishment was now called Yahagi Sweets Shop, inviting everyone to make themselves at home and enjoy their visit. One of the guests noticed that in addition to the external changes to the store, new products appeared on the shelves, which was a consequence of the latest update. The protagonist was looking at special cards designed for the game, which when used as a magical artifact created an explosive wave, after which they disappeared. This was called Explosive Pico and was sold at a fixed price. One of the girls was upset because she wanted to get a certain character, but the card turned out to be with another. She complained that she was counting on a handsome adventurer, but got someone completely different, which caused confusion among those around her. Among the new products, the chocolate stick quickly gained the greatest popularity. It was actively distributed to visitors, explaining that it increases the power of magic when used, but at the same time it is quickly consumed and disappears after one use. Yusuke said that 30% was not such a big difference. The girl replied that it was not at all. The next moment he used fireball magic. The young man was amazed. The girl explained that magic has a great basic potential, so even 30% matters. The girl asked him if he wanted to join their group. They needed someone with offensive magic. The girl replied that she was not very good at it. Regal apologized and said that Garm had recently called him. Then he added and said that it was not enough. Garm said that he should be able to release at least 3 fireballs. The girl asked Yusuke if he wanted to take revenge. The young man noted that there were many visitors today. Yusuke carefully hung up a sign saying that the store was closed today, while he himself remained at home, thinking and planning his next important steps. Suddenly something happened in his room, causing him to have a strong reaction of surprise and confusion, accompanied by a bright flash. When a girl approached him, concerned about his condition, he could only say that it seemed like something strange had happened to him, but he still didn't understand what exactly. Yusuke confidently stated that he was now able to use completely new magic, and this fact was a significant achievement for him, reflecting the progression of his abilities and control over his powers. The girl reacted to his words with restraint, expressing neither surprise nor excitement, as if such statements had already become habitual for her and did not cause resonance. She calmly explained that she had encountered surprises from Yusuke too often, so she had already stopped reacting emotionally to his discoveries, so as not to become overwhelmed. Yusuke admitted that he had mastered a technique that he himself called clairvoyance, adding that it was just his personal name or something like that, which sounded a little uncertain. However, the girl's expression suddenly changed, and she loudly exclaimed in shock, not expecting that they would talk about such a rare and powerful magical ability. Realizing that it was indeed clairvoyance, she exclaimed that this was legendary magic, and asked in amazement if it was really possible. After a pause, she acknowledged that Yusuke was indeed strong in using rare types of magic, and suggested that perhaps it was time to test out a new ability. She promised to monitor his condition and advised him not to worry, as his body should get used to the changes, while offering a magic potion to help. Yusuke remembered her warning to monitor his energy level, as its depletion could pose a threat to his life, and began activating with a serious look. Following the casting of the spell, his spirit seemed to separate from his body, and he looked at himself from the outside, realizing that the effect of the new magic had begun. The protagonist in his astral form was carefully wondering where he should go, unaware of the approaching new events in this place filled with contrasts and surprises. He noticed that two girls confidently headed towards the entrance to the bathhouse, and immediately froze, realizing that the sign indicated the men's section, which caused a wave of confusion and surprise in him. Noticing what was happening, he began to think about the possibilities of his new magic, believing that with its help he could use the situation differently and try to do something unusual. His thoughts led him to the idea of using magic to fulfill a dream that he believed many men shared, which increased the internal tension and temptation. However, after a moment's hesitation, he admitted that even if he remained invisible, it would be wrong to do so, and he felt uneasy and doubtful about the correctness of his intentions. Feeling a sharp weakening of energy, he came to the conclusion that his strength was rapidly waning, and decided that it was time to complete the magical action so as not to harm himself. Realizing the urgency of returning, he activated the magic completion function, and confirmed his intention to return despite the short time he spent in astral form. Yusuke noticed that none of the people around him were paying any attention to him, so he came to the conclusion that in this unusual state, he had become completely invisible and unnoticeable to those around him. He then carefully tried to touch one of the girls standing nearby, but his palm passed through her without any resistance, and he realized that he was unable to physically interact with the people around him. Despite this, he remained in good health and cheerfulness, but he felt a slight fatigue, as if after a short run, and decided that it was time to move forward and explore further. Yusuke, in his astral form, watched the street, calmly floating in the air and thinking about where to go next in order to use the possibilities of the new magic to the maximum benefit. Suddenly, he saw two girls enter behind the curtain with hieroglyphs, and this surprised him greatly, because he did not expect them to go there and did not know how to react to it. He wondered if clairvoyance could be used to do something unexpected, testing the limits of magic, and tempted to take advantage of the situation for an unusual experiment. The thought flashed through his mind that magic could allow him to fulfill the dream of many men, and he thought seriously for a moment about the possible consequences of such an act. However, he quickly came to the conclusion that even if no one saw him, it would be wrong to do so, and a feeling of inner warning did not allow him to continue. Yusuke felt his energy starting to wane and decided it was time to return, as staying in this state for too long could be tiring and dangerous. He saw a glowing interface in front of him with a question about returning, and without hesitation, confirmed his decision, because he felt that he would not be able to remain outside the body for long. The next morning at Yahaga's shop, Regal anxiously asked Yusuke if he had seen the decree she was holding, as it contained something that could affect the city. Yusuke, looking at the text, calmly replied that he had already seen this announcement in the city square, believing that the Mobile Warrior tournament was a great opportunity to prove himself. Regal pointed out that the document was signed by the king himself, which gave the event a special status and significance, emphasizing how important this event would be. The girl happily reported that she had heard Essel wanted to organize a small tournament, but the event unexpectedly grew to the scale of a major event, especially considering that the main prize was a whole million lyre. She enthusiastically exclaimed that her red shoulder would definitely win this time, while her friend confidently added that her house would not lose either, since the popularity of mobile warriors had grown greatly. The long-awaited day of the tournament arrived, and in a majestic arena with high stands and a huge crowd of spectators, the main competition began, which immediately attracted the attention of the public. Yusuke noted with amazement that the tournament was being held in such a large arena, and added that the reception really did look like a royal one, especially considering the selection process. Out of 1,000 applications, only 100 participants were admitted. He remembered that even his hot spring friends took part, which added extra interest to the event and made it even more meaningful to him personally. However, Yusuke himself was supposed to spend this day not in the arena, but in a place specially prepared for him by Essel, a trading point located closest to the entrance to the arena. Looking around, he realized that his point was located right in front of Sanaga's weapons store, and for some reason Murai was also nearby, which seemed unexpected to him. He later noticed the opening ceremony beginning with the king's welcoming speech, but Michelle, she said, had no intention of hearing or seeing either the king or queen. Yusuke, chewing on a chocolate cigarette, asked if he could use clairvoyant magic to look at the ceremony, and it sounded with a slight note of interest. In response, Michelle sternly reminded him that he should not use clairvoyance while his body was not yet ready for such a load, and her voice sounded especially serious at that moment. As the ceremony began, the spectators turned their gaze towards the arena and a lively murmur arose among their ranks, for the king himself had appeared on the platform of honor, an event that was unexpected and added significance to the ongoing tournament. The king, smiling, solemnly proclaimed the opening of the competition, and Queen Titty, who was standing nearby, attracted attention with her magical sense, which allowed her to sense even rare and subtle forms of magic, including clairvoyance. After the morning portion of the fights, signal flares went up over the arena, announcing the end of the round and a temporary break before the next stages of the large-scale competition between numerous participants. At this time, Yusuke settled down to have a snack, holding a prepared sandwich in his hands, enjoying the short break and observing the surrounding environment, full of bustle and anticipation. He pulled out a delicious sandwich with teriyaki sauce, carefully prepared and even complemented by the original signature sauce. The taste of the sandwich suddenly reminded him of Michelle's culinary talents, which again caused him to admire the precision and skill of her execution. The girl regretfully admitted that she lost to 2 opponents at once, and came to the conclusion that their skill had noticeably increased compared to previous competitions. One of the participants turned out to be so popular that a passerby suddenly asked him for an autograph, which caused him surprise and confusion. During the break, the guy offered the girl a chicken sandwich, but she was frightened by the merchant's appearance and refused the offer. The girl, with concentration and insistence, demanded that Yusuke give her something special, something that, in her opinion, was more important than everything else at that very moment. The guy proudly showed a box with a rare collector's model, describing it as a particularly powerful warrior, difficult to control with high strength. The girl responded with delight to the appearance of the model, stating that the red color and characteristics make it the perfect item for her. The guy coldly informed her that the collectible warrior would be used as a prize, which caused her great displeasure and indignation. She noted with concern that if the warrior remained on display, it would upset her, and suggested that he pass it on to someone else to give to the winner. The guy agreed with her proposal and decided to take the model with him to carry out the announced decision, although he was slightly unhappy about it. The girl confidently stated that she would have won anyway, and expressed her readiness to fight in the upcoming tournament to get what she wanted. The guy calmly informed his companion that, according to Essel, the right person should be somewhere in the guest room, so they headed towards the building, hoping to find him there. He suggested that the required room might be located behind the massive and beautifully decorated gates that towered before them in solemn silence. The guards became wary as the strangers approached and immediately demanded an explanation with suspicion, trying to understand who exactly was standing before them and why he had come. The guy introduced himself as a mobile warrior seller named Yahagi, and explained that he needed to talk to Baron Essel about an important matter. One of the warriors discreetly clarified the purpose of the visit, after which the guy showed a box with a rare model and said that he wanted to give it to the Baron personally. Despite the information provided, the guard calmly stated that they could not let ordinary citizens through and advised them to return later, on another day. The boy tried to convince the guards, emphasizing the urgency of his business, and politely asked permission to go to the Baron, hoping for understanding. However, the guards remained adamant, loudly refusing him entry and demanding that he leave the area immediately without causing any trouble. Realizing that the plan had not worked, the boy regretfully admitted that he would probably have to hand over the warrior to the winner of the tournament himself, without risking anything. Suddenly, he noticed Baron Essel himself passing by and called out his name loudly, hoping that he would recognize him and help change the situation. The Baron recognized Yahagi with noticeable confusion and asked in surprise why he was in this place at all, since he did not expect to see him so suddenly and without warning. Yahagi responded to the meeting with relief, and with a slight smile announced that he had a new collectible model that he would like to present as part of the grand prize at the upcoming tournament. He noted that the Baron usually showed bright joy at the sight of everything related to warriors, but this time his behavior seemed unexpectedly reserved and strange, which raised questions. Yahagi turned around and was surprised to see a squad of guards quickly approaching with serious expressions on their faces and determination, ringing in their steps with every movement. Finding himself surrounded, Yahagi exchanged a worried glance with his companion and tried to understand why the situation around them had suddenly changed. The gates swung open before them in a solemn ceremony, and armed soldiers lined up on both sides of the passage in full combat readiness, creating a majestic atmosphere. Yahagi, still not understanding what was happening, felt confused and wondered with surprise if it was really about the approaching nobles he had noticed ahead. One of the attendants suddenly stopped, as if something had caught his attention, and his body froze in an indecisive and concentrated position. The Baron, hearing the question from his companion, without hesitation explained that next to him was Yusuke Yahagi, a mobile warrior merchant with whom he had already met before. Yusuke looked at the two majestic figures in amazement, and mentally exclaimed that perhaps this was the king himself along with his queen. Yahagi noted with relief to himself that it was only thanks to Essel's presence that he had managed to avoid trouble. Without his support in such a situation, most likely, there would not have been a trace of him left, especially considering the recent tension at the gate and when meeting with the guards. He watched Michelle carefully, wondering why she remained calm as the king approached and made no attempt to show respect, as was expected on such ceremonial occasions. His heart was beating noticeably faster as the king and queen passed the guards, and he hoped intensely that everything would pass without incident, as the atmosphere grew more tense and anxious with every step. The king's gaze suddenly changed. He felt something strange and, frowning slightly, turned his head towards the source of the disturbance, trying to understand what exactly had suddenly alerted him among those present. The king suddenly turned around sharply, noticing something unexpected, and exclaimed in surprise, causing Yahagi to wonder in fear why he was the one who had attracted his attention at such an important moment in the meeting. The boy tensed internally and felt an uneasy premonition when he realized that the king probably saw the collectible warrior in the box that he had been holding in his hands all this time. The ruler approached Yahagi with enthusiasm and asked with lively interest what exactly he was holding, his eyes sparkling with curiosity and excitement. Looking at the figurine, the king exclaimed that it looked like a berserker model in front of him, but he noticed that it was somehow different from the usual ones, and this aroused his interest even more. The queen, watching what was happening, calmly asked how this model differed from others, and the Baron explained that it was a rare collectible warrior, specially prepared for a special occasion. She, continuing to examine the figurine, gently asked him to wait a little, making it clear that she wanted to personally sort out the details and perhaps make some decision. Meanwhile, Michelle, who was standing nearby, visibly tensed up when she heard her voice, and involuntarily clenched her hands, feeling an internal uneasiness from what was happening. The queen, with a half-smile, reminded him that wearing a mask in front of the king could be seen as a sign of disrespect, and therefore sternly demanded that it be removed immediately. At that moment, Yahagi realized that the mask Michelle wore was enchanted. Magic hid her from others' suspicions, making it so that no one would consider her to be anything unusual or questionable. However, the queen's intuition seemed to be sharper than any spell. She seemed to sense falsehood and unnaturalness, which finally convinced Yahagi of her insight. Michelle could hardly contain her excitement and carefully said that she was afraid to show her face, because it had severe burns, which could be an unpleasant sight for a royal person, especially in such an official setting. The queen, narrowing her eyes slightly, agreed with a smile, but added with cold frankness that the hidden face looked even worse, since something much more inconvenient was hidden behind it. With obvious superiority in her voice, she expressed her confidence that Michelle had not expected such a meeting, and urged her, without unnecessary excuses, to show herself openly and without a mask, as etiquette required. While Michelle remained silent, Yahagi realized with alarm that the queen had guessed who she was, and he said her name with restraint, although in his heart he hoped that the suspicion would not be confirmed definitively. A second later, the girl slowly removed her helmet, revealing her face with a serious and determined expression, demonstrating her readiness for further conversation and acceptance of possible consequences. She asked with slight embarrassment how the queen had managed to find out the truth, since the mask was enchanted and was supposed to hide the wearer's identity, especially from prying eyes. The queen, lifting her fan with a playful smile, explained that everything was given away by her unusual behavior. After all, a man who never looked at her could not remain unnoticed, which meant that the person hiding behind the mask was not at all the person she claimed to be. Michelle, without taking her eyes off her interlocutor, clenched her hands with noticeable tension and, lowering her voice, began to say something else, as if deciding to make a confession that was very difficult for her. The queen calmly noticed that the girl had unconsciously clasped her fingers again, a habit she always had when she was very excited, and asked her if she hadn't noticed it before. Yahagi, watching the events unfold, quietly muttered that the situation was indeed tense to the limit, and admitted to himself that Michelle's personality split had become obvious even without words. The queen noted with a slight smile that Michelle knew her well, to which she responded in the affirmative, since they had indeed spent a lot of time together in the past. Michelle quietly reminded that they had lived together under the same roof for a long time, and during that time she had become well acquainted with the queen's habits and character, which was difficult to forget. The queen suddenly addressed Michelle, calling her elder sister, which caused amazement in Yahagi, who immediately exclaimed that they really were sisters, because upon closer inspection he noticed their outward resemblance. Michelle, smiling reservedly, pretended not to attach any importance to this scene and asked defiantly what would happen to her now, and what those around her intended to do with her. The king angrily declared that she had committed a misdemeanor in casting the curse, and that she should be punished according to the established laws. Michelle scowled at him in response and asked him a direct question, reminding him that it was he who had behaved rudely towards her earlier, thereby provoking everything that had happened. The queen intervened in the argument, noting that the curse should have long since dissipated, but her brother flared up and shouted that he didn't care because the suffering was real. The enraged king immediately gave the order to the guards to seize Michelle, calling her a witch, and they immediately responded that they were ready to carry out the order without delay. Michelle, hearing the verdict, lowered her head for a moment and thought, barely realizing that she was now considered a criminal, despite everything she had been through. Then she suddenly raised her face and looked forward with a smile, expressing her determination not to give up and to accept everything that happened with her head held high. Yusuke heard with alarm one of the soldiers express doubt that the forces they had were enough to handle the situation, given the unusual abilities of their opponent, whose power they were wary of. The girl standing nearby, looking confident and calm, reminded them that their opponent was her own sister, and this circumstance, in her opinion, made the outcome of the upcoming fight especially unpredictable and difficult. Yusuke then saw someone hand over a magic staff, accompanied by a remark about the need to be able to use magic. Otherwise, even powerful artifacts would be completely useless in a real situation. At that moment, the magic suddenly activated, and blinding beams of energy flashed through the air. It looked as if a powerful magical charge was directed straight into the center of what was happening, covering the entire arena. Surprised by what was happening, Michelle wondered if she really felt the magical energy that she was currently feeling in her body, not understanding how this was possible. The answer was a voice that stated that it was a special artifact with an unusual effect, and soon its owner asked if Michelle had already understood how it actually functioned. In response, Michelle described with surprise that the staff creates waves that can block enemy magic, suppressing spells, as if turning off the magical transmission around a certain radius. Excited by what was happening, Michelle turned to her opponent with a question, wanting to know how she was able to achieve such a result, because the effect seemed too precise and strong to her. To this she answered briefly and with a smile, saying that it was all a matter of intuition, confidently uttering this word as something self-evident in such a situation full of tension. Michelle, having heard such an answer, bitterly admitted that from the very beginning she could not accept and come to terms with the existence of this ability, which always caused her internal resistance. The queen was sure that Michelle's feelings were mutual, because she also did not feel sympathy for the girl and perceived her with caution. The king came to life and began to shout loudly in support of the queen, emphasizing that her opponent could only cast spells and nothing more significant. The king reminded her of how much trouble Michelle had caused him and promised to repay her. The queen added that she would make sure her sister got down on her knees. The king decisively and without hesitation gave orders to his soldiers to seize Michelle immediately, without allowing any delay or doubt. The main character resolutely blocked the way for the offenders, firmly standing on the side of the witch and actively protecting her from any threat or danger. After that, he delivered a powerful blow, the wave of which was felt and sensed by literally everyone in the huge area around. All the soldiers who were there at that very moment were overcome with deep bewilderment and complete confusion due to the event that was suddenly happening around them. The hero used a cardboard card for the game. When used as a magical artifact, it created an explosive wave. Everyone present was deeply shocked, and could not understand at all where exactly the source of such incredibly powerful and strong force came from. As it turns out, the staff cannot block the power of magic emanating from sweets, since this magic comes from another world. The queen noticed with great interest and attention that the boy was using magic, and at that very moment, she resolutely asked him about the source and deep nature of his magical power. Yusuke warned against underestimating the pastry chefs with confidence in his voice, demonstrating the determination and inner strength that seemed to inspire him even in the most unusual circumstances, causing confusion in his interlocutor. One of the soldiers, noticing the unrest in the ranks, hastened to assure the others that everything that was happening was just the wind, but he himself was clearly worried, because everything around was becoming more and more tense and fear began to grip the fighters. Yusuke realized that he was facing the biggest problem of his life, because Michelle, who he had always relied on, could not use magic, and this made the situation much more difficult than he had previously expected. He clenched his fist and mentally acknowledged that now was the moment when he himself would have to act decisively, relying only on his own strength, despite the excitement growing inside. Holding up the monster card, Yusuke declared with a solemn expression that he would do this for the sake of the candy store's power, and his eyes were shining with excitement, as if that phrase contained all his hope for victory. He had been eating monster chips for half a year just to finally get this card, and putting all his determination into it, he loudly exclaimed the word calling, activating the magic effect. A dense cloud of energy burst out from the card, and in the center of it, the silhouette of a huge creature began to appear, surrounded by swirls of magical power, which caused alarm among everyone present at the scene. The reaction of the royal couple and the guards was stunned. They could not believe their eyes, watching in horror as something appeared before them that could change the balance of power right now. An ancient dragon named Bismarck appeared before everyone's eyes, and it turned out to be an SSSR-class being, and its impressive size and powerful aura instantly captured the attention of all witnesses of what was happening. Yusuke proudly stated that this creature was the best the candy store had to offer, and his words sounded especially confident, emphasizing how far he was willing to go to protect his friends and win. The stone walls of the arena seemed to shake from the sudden movement as a massive platform emerged from the technical entrance, carrying someone important or dangerous, causing alarm among the spectators. On the platform stood a massive robot, looking menacing and impressive. Its appearance was accompanied by loud sounds of mechanisms, and the referee immediately declared the end of the fight. The girl who had just lost clenched her fists in frustration. Her opponent had attacked from behind, and she had been unable to do anything, and the winner was the one who had gotten behind her. She watched with bitterness as her investment of 1,000,000 lyre and her hopes for the berserker warrior seemed to fly away, leaving behind a feeling of defeat. Later, talking to a friend, she admitted in surprise that her magical control had been much better in the morning, and now she felt a strange change. Her interlocutor also noticed this, which made them both wonder what exactly the reason was, and they began to look for an explanation for what had happened. The girl concentrated and raised the staff, feeling the magic circle growing around her, but at the same time feeling as if something was preventing her power from manifesting. She looked at the instrument thoughtfully, realizing that perhaps the reason was not in her, but in the influence of external factors that limited her magic. At that moment, Yusuke appeared next to her, hugging her, and with determination in his eyes, he said that the future was now in their hands, full of determination and faith in each other. Yusuke and Michelle stood before the ancient dragon, towering over them and emitting powerful energy, but the boy calmly stated that he didn't have time to deal with what was happening right now, his face showing determination. The queen and king, shocked to the depths of their souls, looked at the huge dragon and tried to understand how Yusuke was able to use summoning magic in such conditions, because it seemed impossible and violated all their expectations. In response to their surprise, Yusuke showed the card in his hand with a slight smile and clarified that he only used a little bit of sweets, as if it was insignificant, although there was an important secret hidden behind his words. At this time, the waves emanating from Queen Titty's staff continued to cancel out normal magic, but their influence did not extend to the magic from the candy store, making the artifact less useful in this situation. Bismarck, the time-limited summoned ancient dragon, could only stay in this world for 3 minutes, and Yusuke realized that they needed to leave the magic suppression zone to implement the next step of the plan. Michelle looked worried, and the thought flashed through Yusuke's mind that if she decided to use her powers, she could save herself. But perhaps after that they would both have to leave the country and go into hiding. Yusuke made an internal call to Bismarck, preparing to give him the command, and a determined smile appeared on his face, for now was the beginning of their most important and dangerous push forward. He quickly thought of those who were dear to him, his regular customers, friends, and relatives from the candy store, and this reminder made him feel a little sad, because for their safety he would have to act without delay. He gave the order to the dragon not to hold back, to give free rein to his power and destroy everything that stood in his way, because now the stakes were too high and there could be no compromises at all under these conditions. The queen and the king were horrified by what was happening and instinctively clung to each other, not understanding how the situation had gotten out of control so quickly and why everything was unfolding so suddenly. The young man suddenly notices two people appearing in the sky, rapidly approaching. At the same time, a loud cry of protest is heard, as if someone is going to intervene in what is happening. One of the strangers, with a determined expression on his face, immediately pounces on the dragon, wrapping his body in ropes. Bismarck, surprised and confused, does not have time to react, and his movements become constrained. While the dragon wriggles helplessly, strong ropes completely tighten its wings and body. The stranger concentrates on holding the tension, trying to completely immobilize the monster until the next step. Yusuke was surprised to see two figures descend from the sky, and at the same time, a loud cry was heard nearby, expressing the determination to stop what was happening at any cost, regardless of the circumstances or consequences. One of the arrivals quickly pounced on the huge dragon, using its weapon with precise calculation, and even the dragon itself reacted to this attacking movement with noticeable surprise and tension in its gaze. The same figure clutched a lasso in her hands, with the help of which she managed to wrap the dragon in thick ropes, not allowing him to move despite his enormous size and the strength of his resistance. A tall warrior with flowing hair stood in the center of the arena, radiating confidence and strength, while the other participants in the fight watched her with respect, realizing that the situation had now changed dramatically. Meanwhile, the dragon was completely immobilized despite its power, and one of the heroes was nearby, demonstrating the power of the weapon and the blow, which could radically affect the course of the further confrontation. The huge figure of the dragon slowly disappeared, dissolving into thin air, as if the magic that had held it back no longer worked, and a tense silence reigned over the arena, replaced by the voice of an observer assessing what was happening. Yusuke and the girl next to him stood in silent shock when they heard that the arena was built with taxpayer money, adding to their awkwardness, as the consequences of its destruction could affect everyone present. The general pointed to the girl, insisting that he was the one to deal with her, as she would first have to go through the prescribed punishment before she could be dealt with completely. The king, with a contemptuous smile, declared that there were traitors before him and gave the order to immediately deal with them, confidently handing over command to his subordinates. The general, with the sword behind his back, reacted calmly to what was happening, watching events unfold without worry, as if everything was going according to his expectations. He laughed loudly and turned to the girl, expressing surprise that she was the champion in the mobile martial arts field, marveling at her strength and reputation. In response to the challenge, the witch coldly refused to participate in the fight, stating that she did not consider it necessary to continue their previous confrontation despite the enemy's confidence. Meanwhile, the king explained that the witch's powers were temporarily sealed, so she was now no different from an ordinary person and did not pose much of a threat. The king, with a smug smile, admitted that he wanted the witch to kneel before him immediately after her capture, demonstrating his humiliating intentions. The general, having examined the magic staff, turned to the merchant, as if he was about to communicate something important or demand an explanation about what was happening. The merchant, observing the situation, finally understood what the essence of what was happening was, and realized that all the circumstances were developing in a certain way. The general admitted that he had known all along that the witch was hiding her identity behind a mask, and this revelation did not surprise him at all, but rather confirmed his suspicions. The young man listened thoughtfully to his opponent, who, smiling, admitted the possibility of sparing his life if he admitted that he did not know the identity of the witch. The couple watched the opponent's words and actions closely, while behind their backs stood hostile faces, threateningly encouraging them to think about salvation. Michelle, slightly clenching her fists, mentally admitted to herself that despite the fact that life belonged only to her, she had almost no opportunity to make choices on her own. Thoughts about fate floated through the young man's mind. Since he had found himself in this world, not a single decision had been made by him truly voluntarily. He recalled that he became the owner of the shop thanks to his ability, and all the other steps, including working in the dungeon and at the springs, were due to other people's suggestions. He was aware that even the offer to date him had come from Michelle and not from himself, and this made him feel internally dependent. However, he understood that there comes a time when one must make one's own choice, regardless of other people's expectations or circumstances. Among the few things he could choose was love. he looked at Michelle, realizing that she was the one dear to him. The girl, hiding her face behind a fan, turned to the main character with a sly smile, reminding him how difficult it is to leave a gloomy person, especially if she looks like her sister. The main character and Michelle stood a little to the side and did not react to the provocation. She continued to mock, pointing out that everyone was watching her rival being dumped by her lover, calling it a hilarious spectacle. At the same time, it was noted that Titty was considered the most attractive and flirtatious of the two sisters, and therefore enjoyed greater popularity with those around her. Despite her demonstrative superiority, the protagonist mentally noted something important. At that moment, he looked at the girl with restraint, and she, in response, still holding the fan in her hands, sarcastically commented on the threat, stating that she even became scared. The protagonist confidently declared that he was making a choice in favor of Michelle, without a drop of doubt. He did not hold back his emotions and directly addressed Titty, calling her to be silent, and called her a scarecrow, finally indicating his attitude to her behavior. Titty was taken aback by what she heard, unable to immediately comprehend what she had just been called. Her lips trembled and her face froze in an expression of surprise. She clearly had not expected such an answer and froze in place. Gradually, the realization began to dawn on her, and she asked again with a stunned expression, was she really called a scarecrow? This was followed by another word of surprise. She could hardly believe that the address was addressed to her. Suddenly, she was overcome with rage and screamed, demanding confirmation that she was indeed called that. The protagonist calmly confirmed his words, adding that she may have a pretty face, but her disgusting character ruined everything and prevented anyone from taking her seriously. He then took action, opening his mechanical gauntlet and commanding the artifact to open. His face was set in determination, and he no longer hid his seriousness as he prepared to take the next step. Michelle turned to Yusuke with agitation and noticeable anxiety, expressing doubt and uncertainty as to whether the hero was really going to use that very magic. The main character suddenly came up with the idea of using the very magic known as clairvoyance, to gain a unique opportunity to look into the future. A young man named Yusuke, surrounded by markers, was expressing his desire for the projectile to hit its target. They were shouting at him to stop, warning him of the danger. Then the important question was asked, had he made a final and firm decision? The young man looked visibly nervous and somewhat unsure, holding several candies in his hand while a smiling man stood calmly next to him. The man laughed and called the woman who was astounding everyone around her a scarecrow, and said he had changed his mind about the merchant. He too confidently made his final decision. The smiling man calmly continued his leisurely movement forward. The people around, including several women, looked extremely surprised and deeply shocked by the events taking place around them. Bardos faced a confrontation when his companion accused him of doing something and expressed his intention to go against him. The atmosphere became tense when the character stated his desire to obtain something belonging to Bardos. Bardos offered to end the conflict with his younger brother, demonstrating a willingness to reconcile and an attempt to find a peaceful solution to the situation. The character admitted that he had returned from the front specifically to rest, but realized that he was tired of what was happening. He doubted the correctness of his actions and stated that he was simply tired of the whole situation. Bardos expressed the opinion that he was being led by some fools, expressing dissatisfaction with the leadership and demonstrating frustration with the current circumstances. The character expressed displeasure with Bardos' actions, accusing him of speaking out against the king, indicating the seriousness of the political situation and the potential consequences of such behavior. Bardos announced that his soldiers had already surrounded the arena and then declared the beginning of a coup. He proclaimed himself king and announced his ambitious plans to seize power in the kingdom. Bardos smiled and called his opponent his older brother and declared that he was staging a coup, demonstrating confidence in his actions and plans. His opponent uttered the word coup with obvious surprise and alarm, realizing the scale of the events taking place and their potential consequences for the kingdom. The character exclaimed, urging Bardos not to do anything stupid, trying to bring him to his senses and prevent the catastrophic consequences of the planned coup. Bardos grabbed his opponent by the throat, demonstrating physical superiority and his willingness to use force to achieve his goals in the struggle for power. Bardos solemnly declared that it was time to remember the old days and put an end to petty disagreements. Surrounded by soldiers, he proclaimed the beginning of decisive action. The soldiers who received the secret order admitted that defeating the dragon seemed like an impossible task, but they were ready to do their duty. Bardos ordered his brother to be taken to his office, where he was to sign several important decrees, demonstrating the organization of his plan to seize power. The bound character asked bitterly if this was better than death, expressing despair at the hopelessness of his situation and understanding the seriousness of the situation. An unexpected scene unfolded in the arena. A girl appeared who was clearly surprised by what was happening and did not understand what was happening around her. Another character noted that the queen would be going with them, indicating that the coup plan affected all members of the royal family. Someone ordered the girl to be released, showing that there were disagreements among the conspirators about the methods of achieving their goal and the treatment of prisoners. The participants in the events discussed the possibility of leaving, wondering whether they should leave the scene or stay to finish what they started. One of the characters was surprised to find an object, which added a new element of surprise to the unfolding coup situation. The character expressed hope that the item would be returned to its place and relief that the box remained intact, demonstrating concern for the safety of important things. The man turned to the boy, saying that he would give the berserker statue to the winner of the intense and decisive fight. Baron Essel turned to his interlocutor, his appearance in the conversation adding an important element to the developing situation with political changes in the kingdom. The character anxiously inquired whether those around him knew about the coup that had taken place, demonstrating concern about the spread of information among the population. The Baron regretfully admitted that he felt sorry for dragging other people into these events and asked for forgiveness for the circumstances that had arisen. The Baron offered to hold an object and asked for forgiveness, continuing to participate in the events that unfolded after the coup. A group of characters find themselves under falling snow, creating an atmosphere of change and anticipation of further developments in the political situation in the kingdom. The tournament organizer announced to the crowd that the competition would continue despite the circumstances, and the winners would be able to finish the competition. The Baron reflected on the political intrigues surrounding the royal tournament, realizing that the situation had been resolved by the events that had taken place. Some called for leaving the bitterness of regret in the past, suggesting accepting what happened and moving forward after the coup is over. A few days after the recent events, Yusuke found himself near a large castle with high towers, where changes caused by recent decisions could already be felt. The capital solemnly announced that General Bardos had become the new king. The people welcomed the news, as new decrees reduced taxes, expenses for the royal family, and strengthened control over power. The former rulers, the king and queen, were imprisoned in a high tower called rondas, accused of treason and stripped of all their powers. Because of their previous reckless management of the state, they had to give up their privileges, and now they had to live in poverty for the rest of their lives as a punishment for their mistakes. The idea of building a separate palace for the former queen was also abandoned, since the remaining funds were not enough to compensate for the previous expenses inflicted on the country. Thus the revolution ended, and the inhabitants, realizing how hard life had been for them before, began to look to the future with cautious hope, sensing the approach of a better time. Meanwhile, Yusuke and Michelle were back to work in their candy store. Both looked calm and stood in front of the sign, as if confirming that everything that was happening was their personal choice. Despite the change of king and the turbulent events, Yusuke's daily life remained the same. He continued to open a shop near the springs as he had done before without changing the rhythm of his life. Another day began as usual, and Yusuke, smiling politely, greeted the new visitor, not knowing how this visit would end. An elderly man with a shining aura entered, accompanied by 2 armored bodyguards, giving the impression of an important and unexpected meeting that was ready to change everything. Yahagi was surprised to recognize Baron Essel, who had entered the shop and greeted him with a smile, noting that it had been a long time since he had seen the man. The Baron, who had maintained a polite smile, calmly responded, reminding him of the time that had passed since their last meeting. The young man offered his congratulations, mentioning that he had heard of the Baron's promotion and inquired about the reason for the visit. Essel, after a short pause, got to the heart of the matter, clearly preparing to explain himself. The Baron looked down and regretfully admitted that they were using the Mobile Suit Tournament as a cover for the coup, and noted that he understood the possible displeasure on Yahagi's part. Yahagi, looking calm, said that he did not feel angry, but admitted that the situation was unpleasant for him, especially considering its unexpectedness and consequences. Essel apologized to Yahagi, expressing his sincere regret and adding that he did not want something like this to happen during the tournament. His words sounded remorseful. After hearing the explanation, Yahagi pondered the Baron's words. He insisted that such a plan was the only way to lure the king out of the castle, which was protected by the strongest magic. Yahagi, with a heavy expression, his head bowed, admitting that he had come specifically to offer a personal apology. Yahagi thought at that moment that few people were capable of such an act. Yahagi came to the conclusion that Baron Essel, despite his role, was not actually that bad, and showed himself to be unexpectedly worthy, which earned him respect. The Baron perked up at the mention of the new mobile warriors. Yahagi lowered his voice and said that he was sharing this information only with him, hinting at the importance of the upcoming innovations. Yahagi introduced two new fighters, the crossbowman Gurjikas and the speedy warrior Zeke, noting that they might be put up for sale later. The Baron immediately received this important news with great, sincere and genuine interest and attention. The young man smiled reservedly, answering the Baron that the only thing he wanted was to apologize for what had happened, showing the sincerity of his intention. He emphasized that he did not demand anything in return, relying on the understanding of his interlocutor. The hero's inner voice reflected that his only desire was to live in peace. Then he kindly served another customer in the store, reminding himself that it was this simple life that was most important to him. The girl happily carried out the customer's order, holding 2 bottles of drinks in her hands. Her animated expression spoke of how much she enjoyed the peaceful, everyday work next to someone she cared about. The girl is shocked to learn that Minerva was the same witch Michelle who was wanted all along. The author notes that her name disappeared from the list of criminals due to his request. Michelle has finally managed to give up her mask and is now openly helping out at the store. Yusuke stands next to her, and someone is surprised to notice that she is his girlfriend. The girl with glasses cannot believe that Yusuke participated in the coup, and he answers uncertainly, trying to soften the reaction of the interlocutor. The girl excitedly tells how Yusuke summoned a huge dragon to protect her from the king and queen, emphasizing that everything happened for her sake. Yusuke feels uneasy and thinks that the coup story sounds too embellished, while others admire his actions. To confirm this, Yusuke hugs Michelle and declares that their relationship is real, and that they are indeed dating. The girl, listening attentively and warmly to this sincere confession, sincerely rejoices with all her heart for the couple, loudly and joyfully shouts congratulations, and looks truly happy and pleased for them. She wishes Yusuke and Michelle happiness, and at this time another girl with a downcast look barely squeezes out a short "ah," not hiding her emotions. Myra is sad and holds back tears, thinking that the rumors about first love, which is never mutual, turned out to be true in her case. Myra's friend gently invites her to drink sake and ramune with her, knowing that she can handle it. She'll cry, feel sorry for herself, and she'll definitely feel better. Yusuke looked back at the snow, suddenly remembering that he had come to this world when spring had just begun, and now he was surprised to see how winter had already enveloped the streets. The young man felt the cold from the first snow, and was surprised at how quickly time had flown since his arrival in this world. He reflected on how, despite the changing seasons and the events that had occurred, his life continued to move forward at the same pace. He felt no regret about his choice and recalled how confident he was in his own actions and decisions, despite the consequences. Baron Hessel, in a conversation with the king, noted that the young man they were discussing had not simply resigned himself to the situation, but was moving forward, defending the person dear to him. The general, listening to the reasoning, was surprised by Yusuke's determination and noted to himself that at first he considered him an ordinary merchant, but now he saw in him a strong-willed man. The Baron thought about the look in Yusuke's eyes back then, which showed a willingness to challenge everything for the sake of a girl, which left a deep impression on him. One of the advisors noted that such a person cannot be simple, because he put love above personal gain and security. The Baron, discussing Yusuke's request with the king, admitted that he really did not want anything in return except the girl's release, and this seemed surprising to him. The king concluded with a slight smile that a person who is capable of finding someone more precious than the whole world is really not as simple as it might seem at first. Yusuke, upon hearing the proposal, received an invitation to a procession in honor of Saint Cordelius, which was to take place soon. He listened with surprise to the explanation of what exactly was being discussed. The girls explained that Cordelius was a priest who helped the sick during the epidemic, and that a festival with a procession and lanterns is now held in his honor every year. This piqued Yusuke's interest as well. Yusuke, thinking out loud, compared the upcoming procession to Japanese lantern festivals. One of the girls told him that during the festival the streets are filled with market stalls, and suggested that he take along some glowing sweets neon jelly with 5 flavors. New Year's Eve arrived, and the girls, seeing the glowing sweets, admired their beauty. They thought that such things should definitely be sold, especially on such a bright night.